Backside heat, fumble, got knocked loose, is on the ground, loose ball, a big hit by T.J. Franklin, and the Bears have the football, and McClain is lit.
Welcome to Sikkim 365 Radio.
They brought in Doyle at fullback, they line up out of the eye, play fake, Bohannon, touchdown, Boyle, a receiving touchdown now. What doesn't he do?
Sikkim 365 Radio is presented by IdealMRI.com. High-quality MRIs for $497 or less. IdealMRI.com. Your health is important, so is your budget.
And they'll go to their star, Breece Hall, and it's a big run. Look out. Hall is loose. 30, 20, could go, and he will. Touchdown on the first play from scrimmage.
The 3 o'clock hour is sponsored by Waco Custom Marketplace. Meats, sweets, Texas treats, and a cut above the rest. 425 Lake Air Drive, Waco.
As they go with the pass to Lamb, and a touchdown.
Now here's David Smoak, Paul Catalina, and Craig Smoak.
All right, here we go on Sikkim 365 Radio, 365 Sports. Craig Smoak, Paul Catalina, David Smoak, Armstrong Sims in the mothership, the studio. And at 3:45 today, we'll check in with Travis Hines. He covers Iowa State for the Ames Tribune. Also, Mack Rhoades of Baylor at 4:20. Craig's off the radar. Paul's interview with David Hellman on the Cowboys, who are red hot at 5-1, and then his top five. NBA season starts today. I didn't even know it until I happened to hear that on the radio. Also, what right now, and we've done top fives on this, but who, in your opinion, have done the best head coaching jobs through this point? It's past the halfway point. Who, in your opinion, the YouTube channel on the text or chat room, YouTube 365 Sports, and the text line 254-339-1122. Which three coaches, in your opinion, have had the best year so far in college football? Paul?
Best year so far, I would think Luke Fickell.
Okay.
I still can say Mike Gundy, given the fact that his quarterback is a disaster a lot of the time, and they're still winning. And with Kirby Smart, because it's finally kind of come together for him on offense.
Sometimes, Craig, when we have players or teams who are supposed to be good and then they are good, we kind of overshadow them. There's that story about Tom Landry for years was never the NFL Coach of the Year. Well, they were supposed to win. It was so unfair because sometimes that's even more difficult. I don't know if Nick Saban's ever been named the Coach of the Year because maybe he was early on at LSU. I don't know. But who are your top three, at least in your opinion, to this point?
I'm pretty sure Nick Saban's been named Coach of the Year like multiple times, I would think, at this stage. So, I mean, he's been expected to do it and still got crowned for it plenty of occasions. But, I mean, there's more than three, really. But I think you have to look at, obviously, Kirby Smart, even though they were expected to be here. Luke Fickell, like Paul said. And then, it gets a little bit more of a wild card as far as that number three goes. I think you look at Jeff Traylor at UTSA. You look at Mel Tucker. You look at a lot of different people who have seen turnarounds of their programs this year. I think there's a wide pool of candidates. I don't think there's just a three, but yeah, I guess I'd have to go Fickell and Smart for sure, and then I'd have to think a little bit more about that number three spot.
It's good to hear from Timothy Vermeer on the chat room. Timothy said he was traveling back from a vacation yesterday.
Gundy would be a good one now that I think about it. Yeah, Gundy would be good.
Timothy, our very proud Iowa Hawkeyes fan, said he was not here yesterday because he was traveling back from a vacation. Timothy, come on. You've been very proud. You should remain proud. I know you are after the loss to Purdue. And he also missed the show when we featured Purdue with Tom Deinhardt. All right, Oklahoma State, Iowa State. And we're going to have a segment here in just a moment. Craig brought this up yesterday to overview the Big 12. there are some hellacious games coming up. And one of them is Iowa State and Oklahoma State. And Iowa State's kind of like almost the Undertaker, right? Or who's the one that comes out of the coffin and like raises up?
Is that
yeah, it's kind of like who he can be at times. Who do you have in this game?
I'll take Iowa State at home. I think this is a really close matchup. I think that Brock Purdy is better than Spencer Sanders, and otherwise the defenses seem to be pretty well matched. The running backs are pretty well matched. You know, they're even across the board, and I think when you do that, I always lean to the home team, and Ames has a good home crowd. And Oklahoma State's been playing with fire for several weeks, and you know, I don't know if any team's going to come out of this thing in the Big 12 undefeated, so somebody's got to get them sometime. I think Iowa State it has as good a chance as anybody.
I'm taking Iowa State right now. I like the fact that they're in Ames. That makes a big difference to me, and they are playing, relatively well. I think Oklahoma State's a good football team, and would not shock me to see them go win this weekend. But I like the Cyclones at home, and I think that with their defense, they can do enough to just wreak a little havoc on Jalen Warren and Spencer Sanders. And I know Oklahoma State's defense will, be able to do some things against Breece Hall and Purdy and company. But I just overall in the matchup, I do like Iowa State's chances better, and being at home does matter to me.
Oklahoma has done this before, and Iowa State has done this before, where they've had an early setback, and then at the end of the year you look up, and there they are. And there are still expectations that might happen with the Cyclones, that they get themselves back. They still have to play. They have Oklahoma State. There's one way to start it. Don't they still have to play Oklahoma as well? Oklahoma has Baylor as well. Oklahoma State has already played Baylor, and then this weekend they get Iowa State. Brigham Young offensive coordinator Andy Roderick on Baylor. That's the best football team we have played this year. They're going to be tough to beat down the stretch. They are good. We heard earlier this week, or earlier in the year, about Baylor's defense being as fast as any defense someone had faced at all. So these are from teams that are pretty good. And obviously they got to play well to beat Texas. They're going to have to make sure they can not get that thing too much into a track meet. But that's pretty high praise from the offensive coordinator who replaced Jeff Grimes, who went to Baylor.
Yeah, I mean, and to hear that the best team they've played all year now, and they've played a good schedule. I know
played Arizona State, right?
Yeah, and that's in the Pac-12. I know people don't
Utah
respect the Pac-12 as much, but yeah, Baylor's come along really well. I wouldn't have thought, a couple weeks ago they might have been the best team they played, but you've seen the growth and development since, especially the last two games, West Virginia and BYU. They're playing on a different level than they were even 2 weeks before then.
That's the best football team we have played this year. They're going to be tough to beat down the stretch. They are good. That's the second time I've heard a coach give that kind of praise to Dave Aranda and his football program. Now, what does Washington State do with Nick Rolovich? He's gone. Didn't want to take the vaccine. It was not just him, but half the staff, or almost half, 4 members of his staff, they walked out the door. They're fired because of a state mandate. What do they do in the middle of the year, and who loses here? Is it Rolovich's staff, the players, the program, who?
I think everyone loses.
I agree.
I mean, everyone loses, and you and I had a very heated debate about this before the show, and look, I know it didn't seem like it with what I said before, but I do respect the opinion on it. I think that, and Nick Rolovich made his choice. I think he knew what was coming, and that's that. There was one thing he could have done. I think it's unfortunate in that I think there's kind of selfishness and selflessness intertwined there. But, it's going to be tough for them to move forward with having to elevate grad assistants to do assistants jobs. I mean, you can't just go hire, a wide receivers coach or whatever in the middle of the year. They're not sitting out there waiting that know your system and all that. So you're going to have 4 grad assistants and a guy who's never been a head coach before, running your program in a Power 5 conference for the rest of the year. That's not any kind of, stance you'd want to take, no matter what the right and wrong of Nick Rolovich and his vaccine stance are.
Well, I mean, this was a long time coming. I mean, you can kind of feel this percolating for the last few months. And I'll say this about the whole deal without getting into the weeds on vaccine opinions and all that, because I don't care what anybody else's opinion is. I got mine. I don't care about anybody else's. Everybody's free to have their choice or whatever. While I respect his own decision, it's still selfish. Like, it's even if you say, like, well, that's his right. Okay, I agree with that. It's still selfish. It's selfish because you knew going into this season that you were either going to have to get a vaccine or some Hail Mary from the Washington government to allow you to coach these young men whose families you sat in the living rooms of and talked to and told you would take care of. And it appears to me that Washington State's roster is still intact, right? So that tells me every single player on that football team got the vaccine based on the information that we have. That means every single trainer on that team got the vaccine. That means every quality control, everything not but those 5 coaches. So 100-plus people got that vaccine because they wanted to continue playing football and be on that team, and those guys decided not to do that. They decided not to be a part of the team. And that's not me going, Nick Rolovich is this. No, that's just flat bottom line. That's true. That is true. He made a selfish decision to not continue on with the team because he didn't want to get the vaccine. Now, if you want to debate whether that decision for him is right or wrong, that's not what I'm talking about. But the decision itself in regards to the team was selfish. And the biggest losers in this are the players, clearly the players. I mean, they had a guy come into their living rooms and tell their families and tell them about, the next 5 years and all that's going to be great and this and that. And, now here they are. They're in the middle of a season. It's been a train wreck the entire time because this thing's been swirling above their heads since, the mandates were put into effect. And you knew this was coming. I mean, you saw the light at the end of the other end of the train tracks, and it was chugging on along, and it's gotten closer and closer, and you knew something had to give with some of these dates. And so, here we are. And, again, not saying whether he personally is this or that, and no indictment on him personally, but the decision itself, it was selfish, and it leaves those players hung out to dry. I'm sure those coaches that are remaining are going to do just fine in terms of taking care of those guys. But, as far as the season goes, it sucks for those guys. It really does. It sucks for those players. I feel for them, and, hopefully they go hire a good coach, and I really feel for the players who are in their last year. I mean, we saw plenty of Baylor teams have to limp through their final years and how just miserable and hard that was. And so Washington State, I don't think it'll get to that extreme necessarily. If anything, it's probably the clearing of the air is probably a feel-good thing in some ways. But I did notice their quarterback, he came out in support of Rolovich and talked about the love that they had, and that's all grand and well. But, yeah, it's a tough break for Washington State. I know their AD said that, he felt like he made a mistake, in hindsight, obviously, because he's having to replace a coach already. But, nobody saw this coming, the whole pandemic thing. And so it threw a lot of things for a loop, and Washington State's head coaching job just happened to be one of them.
From Hilda Rolovich, she's saying on the chat room, and I know that he applied for this, but was granted the religious exemption by the state of Washington, but it was not honored by the AD in school. There's others who agree or disagree.
It was a two-tiered process. So what they did was kind of like a double-blind thing. They didn't know who the employee was. So if you applied for something, it would know it was Nick Rolovich. It was just no name, here's the reasons, and they had different criteria you had to meet. And religious exemptions are probably tricky because there's not a major church that's come out and said anything about it or about vaccines, so he has to kind of get in the weeds on that. But that was apparently, and I don't know, the way that the AD said it was, it appears that he was granted that, but then the second wall of things was the athletic department having to approve the religious exemption, which they clearly did not.
Yeah, and to be very clear, when I say the term selfish, everybody's going to take that as like super negative and like a knock on the guy. But it's the definition of selfish. It doesn't necessarily have to be like this red alarm term of like, you're bad, you're No, but it is selfish. It is selfish by definition that he chose to put himself before the rest of the team. And that's why he's no longer the head coach. Now, again, not knocking him one way or the other on that, but that is the fact, is that it was a decision that he and 4 other coaches decided to make. And so if they live with it and they're just fine with it and they believe in what they're doing, then that's all that really matters for them. And if the players are okay and they can move on and go find a head coach, that's really what's most important for Washington State. So a shame that it ended up like this, but again, we saw this coming now. It's been like a month's countdown for some decision to be made.
June Jones, who has been in the league or he's been everywhere, player, coach, everywhere, said that she's kind of Rolovich's mentor. He and I have had 6 or 7 conversations over the past 60 days, and my advice is for him to take the shot. There's too much at risk to losing, too much at stake to risk losing his job. It's an unfortunate situation. It may be against what he believes, obviously, but there are more people at stake. The university's credibility, the lives of assistant coaches, their families. There's a whole bunch more at stake than just him, and that's exactly what I told him. Now, a couple of you on the chat room. From Jay, I don't think it's selfish, as no one can tell a woman what to do with her body based on politics. You can't tell a man what to do with his. From Hilda, I had yours here right now. She goes, by the way, I think it was also Tony. They've won 3 games in a row. They've kind of like they're the hottest team in the Pac-12 right now, and they're going through this as well. And I had Hilda's response on the chat room. If I don't know, I can't get to it now. I had it, I lost it. But she was saying that this is not a train wreck. Wazoo has won 3 straight. When the AD met with the team, the majority of the players stood up for Rolovich and his assistants, but they are gone. Those 4, and he is gone.
I will say this when it comes to players standing up for a coach. There's a reason that college players are never asked about the coach. Yeah. It matters nothing to the athletic department. I mean, it doesn't.
No,
when
it really doesn't. No, it doesn't. Very rarely has that ever changed the mind of anybody.
Yeah, I think it only would in a sense of a controversial thing, that has nothing to do like a social justice thing. I think maybe if you went to the players, say, how do you feel about this? For example, if it was a John Gruden thing, if Mark Davis walked in the locker room and said, hey, how do you guys feel about his emails and stuff? Do you care? And if the majority of them said, no, we don't care, then maybe John Gruden isn't having to resign, but I doubt that was the case in Las Vegas. So,
but here's also why I brought up Washington State. I saw 2 different stories, both of them about coaching candidates. On one of them, Steve Lassan, one of the names, including co-defensive coordinator, linebackers coach at Texas, Jeff Choate, Troy Calhoun at Air Force, among some others. Let's see, the head coach at Fresno State, DeBoer. One of the names, Alex Grinch from Oklahoma, who's been there before at Washington State, and Jeff Grimes, offensive coordinator at Baylor, was one of the names, along with Jay Norvell as well in Nevada.
This is my top 5 for today, as a matter of fact.
Oh, good. Perfect. That's a perfect way to look at it then. And then Bruce Feldman has his. He has some of the same names, Grinch, Calhoun, Choate, Jim McIlvain at now Central Michigan.
But
he does not have the Joe Moorhead. He does not have Grimes' name on there. That's just a thought.
I think it's a great job for a young head or a young potential head coach. Maybe somebody who's an OC or DC. Right now, do you go and try to find somebody who runs a spread offense or run and shoot like Nick Rolovich runs, or do you, because it was working clearly before he left 3 games in a row, or do you just go in a different direction for the program because you've got players recruited to play that offense? The AD's in a sticky wicket here for sure.
From Stickum Sports, he met state requirements, but Washington State didn't honor it. Now watch the lawsuit action that follows, and then that gets into a whole another story as well.
I would assume that he gets some of his money.
Yeah. AAC yesterday. 6 different teams will be joining their conference, including Jeff Traylor and UT San Antonio. It also looks as if UNC Charlotte, Florida Atlantic, North Texas, Rice, UAB could be added to the AAC. They've had teams move to the Big 12, and there might be more. Did they get the right teams?
I mean, they got what they could get. It's definitely a step down. I know there's I saw like a little bit of a couple of people like, man, this New American's great. That's a shell of itself, but I'm happy for those teams that are getting the opportunity. That's a big deal for some of those schools. Obviously, they were looking for some new landing spots, and the Americans to step up, so that'll be good for them. The American needed to fill out, and it's kind of interesting of just how big they're attempting to potentially get is kind of interesting, but it's definitely not what it was. And how could it be when you lose, the teams that you lost to the Big 12 conference? I mean, you're losing your top ranked team right now. You're losing another team in Houston that's been pretty good at times for you as well. And you're also losing, who's the third? Cincinnati, Houston, and
UCF.
And UCF, who's not very good right now, but have been, known to make plenty of noise in the past. So, yeah, I mean, they were never going to find 3 teams to replace those 3 teams, I think, exactly. So they did what they could. And, if American fans are excited about it, then that's great, but it's definitely a watered-down version.
Well, and it may be watered down now, but I think the good thing that, look, the Big 12 has had to do, there's no replacing big with big. You just can't. There's no.
Well, it's like trying to replace Texas and Oklahoma.
You can't do it.
You couldn't do it. But
what you have to do is try to, grow, invest in something and grow it. That's what the Big 12 is doing with the 4 teams they've got, and that's what the AAC is doing with the 6 teams they're going to grab.
But here's from someone who is an insider among conference realignment discussion and all that, and it's somebody that I've leaned on occasion. I would have taken UT San Antonio. They're in it, right? Rice, North Texas, UAB, those 4 are all going, right? Mm-hmm. Louisiana Tech and Southern Miss. Now, we've discussed Southern Miss before. There was just one of those unofficial visits. They really were never in contention with the Big 12. I mentioned that at least they were on the list, and I probably could have clarified that they're like that little dot down like Guam on the map. But Louisiana Tech, somebody I didn't think about. And some of these you have to attach teams. Even though regional rivalries are not that important, you still have to have. We know that if USF gets in, one of the reasons is also because of UCF, right? And if Boise gets in, other than what if they've earned to get in, one of the other reasons is because of Brigham Young. You don't have to have them, but that does make a little bit of sense. I don't even know how their conference looks as far as a map.
I just think it's going to be weird because, by the time this is all said and done, everybody's going to be in the same place, just like bumped up a level. That's all it is. That's all it is. It's like, then the teams that are remaining in the whatever else conferences, they're going to band together, and like 5 of them will bump up a level. And so it's, I guess, mostly going to end up being good for pretty much everybody involved because you either stayed where you were or you got bumped up. And then, of course, there will be, those teams who were just never candidates for expansion who just kind of have to sit where they lie, or remain where they are. But, there's a lot of teams that are, getting the excitement of a change in the schedule and a change in affiliation. And, we'll see how the new American works. Obviously, they've got the ESPN deal, and they needed to do something. And so I think that they did the best with what they had remaining. And, hopefully it works out well for them because they have kind of taken the crown of being the, the best non-Power 5 or non-P5, the best of the power group. What is it? The best of the non-Power 5s. So, hopefully they maintain that status.
You saw the Big 12 wobbling, if not on the canvas, and they found a way to get up. Doesn't mean that they had the perfect solution, but what they did was pretty damn good considering where they were late in July. The AAC saw theirs falling apart, even though initially, remember that little kind of almost smart-ass type of story that, the AAC is going to take advantage of the crippled Big 12. How did that work out? The Big 12 reacted very fast and quicker than anybody could have imagined. Probably quicker than anybody possible except maybe someone who maybe was able to tell Bob Bowlesby, stop for a second, let's look at this, right? And they did. And they aren't done, and there's still the possibility of as well Chapter 2.
I do think, though, and you bring up Chapter 2, I think if those Chapter 2 schools that have been rumored, they got to be wanting out right away. Seeing the new teams coming in. And I'm not trying to be a D here. I'm really not. But if you're SMU, for example, and you see these new teams rolling in, is that really what you – like? You know what I'm saying? Would you – is the SMU fan base, for example, going to get pumped up because they're playing Rice again, as a conference game? No, so I don't think these two teams, the teams being added, do a whole heck of a lot. And so I could see where, there probably is that hope lingering for an SMU or a Memphis as well. Teams like that probably feel like maybe we're, maybe we're on the way up too. So we'll see how it goes. But they're going to be having a grand old time as far as wins go based on this new conference. UTSA will be interesting, for however long they can keep Jeff Traylor. UNT's way down right now.
Yeah, Seth Luttrell or Phil Bennett, they've struggled 1-5 or whatever it might be. UTEP's a fun story. I believe we're going to get Dana Dimmel on sometime this week, the head coach at UTEP as well. A lot of great stuff today. Thank you very much from a lot of you. Some of you are going back and forth on Oklahoma State, Iowa State. There's still talk about UT or Oklahoma, Baylor's win and the win against Brigham Young. A lot to get to. But we want to look at one thing real quickly. Craig wanted to do this. We break here. We have Travis Hines on Iowa State and look at the Big 12 and what is going on with this conference. There are some teams that have kind of just not disappeared, but they're not in the conversation. I mentioned one of them in Iowa State, right? So let's come back and give ourselves a look at the Big 12. We'll read some of your chat room comments. There's some of you who want to continue to talk about Washington State, people's rights, who's right or wrong, and you can do that. You can have at it. But we're going to come back for a second and get involved in the Big 12. Last text from Clay on the AAC. UAB makes sense for the AAC to get the Birmingham market, plus they have a nice new stadium, have a good team under Coach Clark. Remember when they lost their program and Bill Clark came back? We had him on at the old place we were at, and a great story with UAB coming back. Literally, you talk about conferences coming back from being wobbly. UAB was gone. And they have now been able to put together a pretty good program.
Yeah, I really don't have, a whole lot of excitement level for North Texas, although it was just a couple years back that Mason Fine was running the show there, and they were scoring a lot of points and doing really well right now. It's not so great. Rice, I mean, that's as much academics as anything else, in terms of football success. It hadn't really been there for them as of late, but UAB, and UTSA, given what they've shown at times and given what UTSA is doing right now in those markets, I think those are two very interesting ads that could, blossom and do really well for the American in the future, especially if UTSA continues to grow as a brand as well as a UAB. So those two I like a lot. FAU and Charlotte. I mean, Charlotte, you got that market there as well.
They've done in a way a little bit about what the Big 12 is trying to do. Attach themselves to certain markets. That doesn't mean that anyone owns the market. Like USF doesn't own Tampa. We know that. Or UCF doesn't own Orlando. Or Houston doesn't own Houston. Or TCU in Fort Worth. But they're just attaching. Yeah. They're attaching to some decent markets. Memphis is one, too. And also Memphis and Birmingham could be kind of a connection as well. I remember one of the things when all the Big 12 stuff went down, bring in UAB just because their offices or where they are is right across the street from the SEC headquarters. And that was kind of funny back in the day. When we come back, let's break down the Big 12. Your text, your calls, 254-339-1122. I'll tell you what, let's do text only in the next segment. We'll have a segment or two in a minute to be able to get calls. Unless we have somebody locked in, Craig and Paul, for the next segment on calls. No. 254-339-1122. This is Sikkim 365 Radio. Pickup Outfitters, as we have weather that changes, they can put all the accessories you could imagine on your pickup truck, SUV, and your minivan. All of them. But one thing that you want to start to do if you don't have protection for the bed of your pickup truck is have lay-in or spray-in liners. Keep it from getting scratched up and keeping from things bouncing around, rolling around, whatever, maybe breaking, maybe denting the inside of your pickup bed. And then again, if you have one of those beds that you're always hauling stuff, it's going to be dented up anyway. Secondly, the other thing that they can do is pickup truck covers. They have the lids to cover up your pickup bed with it, whatever you want. They have the lay-in and spray-in liners, and then on top of that, they also have the ability to cover up your pickup truck in any particular way, different options, different models. And don't forget, if you buy it from Pickup Outfitters at 220 Lake Air Drive in Waco and install it, it comes with a lifetime installation warranty, and they will also help you with any other factory warranty assistance. Pickup Outfitters in J. Arrett, createacommotion.com.
The beautiful, rugged, elegant third-row seat Jeep Grand Cherokee L is in stock at Allen Samuels. This prestigious Jeep heritage is obvious in the Grand Cherokee L. First responders, we're offering an extra $500 cash for you. The 2021 Jeep Grand Cherokee Laredo or Limited has total values of $3,500 or 0% for 72 months going on now. Jeep Adventure Days at Allen Samuels, located at 201 West Loop 340 in Waco.
Come by. Let's be friends.
One size fits all. That may be all right for an adjustable belt or cheap sunglasses, but when it comes to your financial needs, no one wants a one-size-fits-all strategy. Ben Erlinson, your Edward Jones financial advisor, knows that his most important goals are yours. That's why he takes the time to understand your needs, knowing you. That's how Edward Jones makes sense of investing. Ben Erlinson, 100 North 6th Street in Waco, 254-759-8533. Edward Jones, member SIPC.
Hey guys, sports betting season is in full force with football season entrenched and the NBA and NHL underway and the Major League Baseball playoffs. You need a sports book with integrity and longevity like BetUS.com. BetUS has been pioneers in the sportsbook industry for almost 3 decades, thriving and paying their loyal customer base. That's BetUS.com, and they have loads of bonuses like ours at BetUS.com. 125% bonus on promo code SICK'EM125 or a 200% bonus if you use crypto on promo code SICK'EM200. BetUS, known as America's favorite sportsbook. NFL, college football, MLB, UFC, PGA golf, they've got it all at BetUS.com. So go to BetUS.com today and use promo code SICK'EM125 or SICK'EM200. That's BetUS.com, promo code SICK'EM125 or SICK'EM200.
You know what would make this moment better? Pizza. Dough made from scratch and an Italian family sauce recipe pizza. 3 fresh signature cheeses making a melty blanket of perfect pizza. Bob Mock has owned Marco's Pizza franchises since 2013 and has been delivering pizza since 2001 and is the proud owner of 4 locations in the Waco area, in Belmead, China Spring, Woodway, and soon to be open in Robinson. Order at marcos.com to make any moment better. Marco's. Pizza lovers get it.
It's plain and simple. Waco Custom Marketplace is the one-stop shop for what you need for tailgating, from charcoal, cold beer, and wine. And, of course, customize your order with brisket, tri-tip, sausage, wings, smoked pork tenderloin, country-style or pork spare ribs, marinated beef and chicken fajita meat, ground beef and chili, meat, hot dogs, and burgers, buns, seasoning, sauces, chips. There's fresh baked bread and kolaches every day, breakfast sausage links. And you can also customize your favorite cut of steaks from Select, Choice, or Prime, bacon wrap fillets, ribeyes, New York strips, sirloin, T-bone, and porterhouse. Full service butcher shop includes pork, poultry, beef, chicken, and seafood, serving Waco restaurants and families since 1940. Your one-stop shop for beef, pork, poultry, and seafood needs. Waco Custom Marketplace, 425 Lake Air Drive, or WacoCustomMarketplace.com.
Let Camille Johnson Realtors guide you seamlessly through the process of buying your dream home or selling your current one. Commercial, farm and ranch, or residential, Camille Johnson Realtors can smoothly and successfully lead you through any transaction. With a team of 28 experienced agents who are excited about serving you, Camille Johnson Realtors services the entire greater Waco area. If you're in the market to buy or sell, contact Camille Johnson Realtors, 104 Midway Center in Woodway, or find them online at www.camillejohnson.com. Camille Johnson Realtors, elegant, charming, warm. Welcome home.
This is Sikkim 365 Radio. Text us at 254-339-1122. The Sikkim 365 Radio text line is sponsored by Riverbend Liquor and Wine, with the most extensive variety of craft beer in Waco. A hidden gem on Lakeshore Drive and 19th Street.
All right, here we go. We'll have Travis Hines, who covers Iowa State at 3:45 with their showdown coming up. Hell of a game with Oklahoma State. That's very soon. Also, the Big 12 standings. We've kind of talked about it. We know that Oklahoma's kind of now become a little bit more like what we used to see with the explosive offense. I still wonder about the ability and how they tackle. It seems like to me that's just in my head. But Oklahoma and Oklahoma State at top 4-0, 3-0, Oklahoma State. Baylor is 3-1, Iowa State's 2-1. Among these teams, Texas Tech, TCU, Texas, Kansas State, West Virginia, Kansas, and those last 3 are all 0-3. Everyone else has 2 losses. Can any of them get themselves back up to the top and be a part of this thing before it's all said and done?
Thought we were holding off on the Big 12 talk to get to Tex. But to answer your question, I think K-State, to get to the top, I don't see it for those 0-3 teams. No,
not the 0-3, but if Texas. Here's the problem with UT now. They've lost to Oklahoma State and to Oklahoma, which means both of those teams have to lose 3 times. Mm-hmm. Am I right?
Yeah.
Unless you get into a muddle of a bunch of 7-2s, which that's hard to get to that many of them.
I don't think you can take – I think you can kind of take Texas out of it at this point because with 5 or 6 games left, depending on how many you do have to play, it's going to be really hard to see somebody to lose 3 games while Texas also doesn't lose because – look, they've kind of shown what they are. They're better or they're good. They've got potential, but they don't have a whole lot of depth. They're not really good in the fourth quarter against good teams, and they're still, they do some dumb football things. They would need
Oklahoma and Oklahoma State to lose 3 times, and that's not impossible, but I think that the odds are pretty much against that.
Oklahoma and Oklahoma State also play each other at the end of the year,
so that's
just one less chance for one of those teams to lose.
Right, exactly right. But again, as you mentioned, that means Texas would have to run the table the rest of the way, and they did that one time, I think. They've lost many times to Oklahoma under Mack Rhoades, and then they would run the table the rest of the year, and they were finally able to get Oklahoma in 2005. All right, Craig, what else about the Big 12 do you want to discuss?
Nothing top of mind. I just kind of running through the standings themselves. I think you have K-State and West Virginia and Kansas are obviously all out of it.
Does that surprise you that K-State's 0-3 and out of it, basically?
It does, but you look at who they played. They played the best teams in the Big 12 so far. Yeah. Outside of Baylor, they played all the best teams, so that's why their record's 0-3. It's not like they're 0-3 and they lost to Kansas and they lost to West Virginia. No, they lost to Iowa State. They lost to Oklahoma. That's who they're losing to, and Oklahoma State. So, it's not surprising, but it's a little bit of a mirage. But, yeah, I think the way you put it with Texas, they're pretty much out of it, barring, an asteroid hitting Earth or something and completely shaking things up. I don't see how they get back in it, needing both Oklahoma schools to lose multiple games. And as you said, Paul, one of them's, one's guaranteed for one of them. But outside of that, they could very well meet undefeated at the end of the year, which I wrote about in my article. That's a certain possibility. I think they'll both be favored in every single game the rest of the way until they play each other. So, yeah, I think it's pretty much Oklahoma schools. I think Iowa State's still in the mix. You can't rule them out in any way. If they get a win over Oklahoma State, then all this is a moot point. And, they will hand Oklahoma State that first loss, and then it really gets interesting in terms of the standings race. But, yeah, Iowa State's still very much in it. I'm glad Baylor played them, for Baylor's sake when they did, and not like in this stretch run or Brocktober, as some people refer to it at times for Brock Purdy and Iowa State. TCU's interesting. I don't really know what to make of them, but at just 1-2, you still have to consider them.
But you know what they're like? And they kind of proved that a little bit against Oklahoma. And I know you could say whatever you want about Gary Patterson. We know they're like you have to kill them to beat them. They're not going away. Even with sometimes we can get into Gary Patterson, you're going to have to kill them to beat them. And believe me, there's games that they still will win before it's all said and done.
JD and I talked about this on the big one too, which you'll see on Wednesday night. But the way I see it is that there's tiers. You've got like an upper tier right now, which is Oklahoma State, and Baylor. And then you get like second tier, which would be Iowa State is right at the top and like maybe in between, with like the sandwich pick in Major League Baseball. Like they're right there. And then Texas and TCU are in that second tier. And then the rest of it is kind of, that's the bottom tier. And you can maybe even put Kansas State in the second tier if they start winning against teams that are less than the ones that they've already lost to.
Yeah, they're at 0-3 though. That would be really hard to do anything at 0-3. They're pretty much done. All they can really do is play spoiler. To me, it's like there's 4 teams that are really in the mix. It's the Oklahoma schools, it's Baylor, and it's Iowa State. Mm-hmm. And then outside of that, it would take a lot of help for a Texas or a TCU to get back into the mix. That's kind of how I view it. I view those 4 schools are racing right now for the title game, and there are a couple of others that could potentially, if things got really screwy, that could potentially find their way in. The one that's right there in the middle of that I really have no faith in is Tech. I don't have faith. I don't have belief in them, but there they are. They're 5-2. If they win this weekend against K-State, which K-State should win that football game, you would think, but who the heck knows? If Tech wins that game, you have to give it up. You have to give them their props, whether you really believe in it or not. They'd be 6-2, and they won't be favored in another game past this weekend. But still they would be in the mix, so to speak, which is surprising. But that's to me what it looks like, is those 4 teams: Oklahoma, Oklahoma State, Baylor, Iowa State, and then a pack of 2 or 3 that if things really got squirrely could potentially upset the apple cart. And then there's, obviously K-State's out. They can only play spoiler.
K-State plays this week at Texas.
West Virginia's out. Yep. Kansas is out. And, a couple more might be out.
TCU's on the ropes. They've been hurt.
Yeah, they're on the ropes.
They've had some issues at injury, but you're going to have to kill them.
They'd have to win out, though. They would have to win out, and they would have to also get some help.
Their defense is going to have to get better, too.
And I know that they have had, lots of discussion about certain players coming back, especially on defense and helping out, but it better happen soon because, there's not a whole lot of time left at this point. There's only a few more weeks remaining now. We're past the halfway point, so if those reinforcements are going to come, they need to get back in a hurry. But yeah, that's kind of the way I view it right now. Is the Oklahoma schools, Iowa State and Baylor, and obviously Oklahoma State's got the win over Baylor, and Baylor's got the win over Iowa State. Iowa State can get a win over Oklahoma State this weekend, and so on and so forth. So it should be fun because a lot of these teams still have to play at least a couple of others down this home stretch.
Oklahoma, Kansas, we know what happens there. There was a text, I get those mixed up. I shouldn't. Asking about anything that Leipold brings to the table. Let him have time. Kansas, you have nothing else to lose. Give him a chance. Let it take time like a fine wine. Marinating something for dinner and then cooking it on the grill. Let it marinate.
So you got to pay a football coach $3 or $4 million a year on the low end in the Power 5, right? So if you're going to pay $3 or $4 million a year, why not pay $3 or $4 million a year and leave the guy alone as opposed to paying what it ultimately going to wind up being $12 million a year because you're firing coaches and their whole staffs every 3 years. So just pay the $4 million a year.
They're paying Mangino still, aren't they? Maybe not. It's
they're paying Charlie Weiss still.
So they've had Weiss, they've had Miles, they've had Beatty, they've had Turner Gill.
Yeah.
It's just it's a mess.
So pay your $3 or $4 million a year. Let him grow into the program to where he can grow it, and quit putting ridiculous expectations on it. Let Bill Self run the school that he does anyway, and see what happens at the end of it.
Yeah, no one's putting expectations, though, are they? You're almost inferring someone was, but nobody's that dumb.
I think they did beforehand. I think that was the problem.
I think he wanted to know if there's any hope.
Yeah,
is there hope to compete for a Big 12 title? No.
No. But there's no hope for that, and there's no hope for that anytime soon. Just being brutally honest with you, that's just the truth. They're nowhere close. And if there was even a semblance of being close, then maybe it could have happened against Tech last weekend, and they got their doors blown off by an average Red Raiders squad. And I'm not trying to pick on Tech, I promise. But, I do think there is hope, but it's way down the line, and it's a matter of being patient. And I know that's the hardest thing for fans, but, given KU's situation and what he walked into, you have no other choice, really. If you want anybody to come in and resurrect that program, it's going to take time. It doesn't matter if you brought Saban in. Maybe he could land 20 transfers and you'd be a lot better immediately. But, ultimately, the only way you grow into a solid program again is to give the man time. And I do think he can do it. I do think that – I'm not saying that I think he's going to compete for Big 12 titles anytime soon. But in terms of, getting them back in a positive direction, I do think he can accomplish that if they are patient.
All right. When we come back – let's go to one call.
Yeah.
And I just received the text as well about a quote from Gary Patterson about a writer who wrote about Patterson and it's time to move on. He does read and know everything. Well, we'll have that in a second.
And that is one thing, too, that is interesting is the Big 12 coaching carousel and what that could potentially look like, which is kind of part of the storylines. Matt Wells, if he wins game number 6 this weekend and they end up screwing around and win 7 or 8 games, do you still fire the guy? I don't think that you really could if he's winning 7 or 8 games, but that's obviously a situation to monitor. I think Neil Brown's fine at West Virginia for the time being, but obviously there are at least some grumblings now starting to grow a little louder. And then, I wonder, too, the big crapshoot will be the offseason. Does Lincoln Riley eventually want to move on to the NFL? Does that finally become the time? Or, does Gundy finally get that call that makes him want to leave Oklahoma State? So it's weird. The Big 12 right now could stay pat with all 10 coaches remaining where they are, or half the league could disappear. So, that's for us to find out in the next few months.
Yeah, and maybe even sooner than that. Paul?
Right. Josh in Indianapolis, thanks for your call. You're on the BetUS caller line.
Hello, guys. Love your show.
Thank you.
My question is given the games that have gone on so far with Kansas, do you see any hope for Kansas? Do you see any – is Leipold the right guy? Do you see any hope for the program given what they've shown in the field so far?
I think I just read your chat room comment, and we just answered that. But thanks for the call. We appreciate it. Okay.
I mean, but going back, and if you want to rewind this later, but yeah, I don't think Craig said not for the immediate future, but they absolutely have to just stay the course. And they weren't able to with other coaches for whatever reason. And I think now that they've bought out so many guys and fired so many guys, you just got to let Lance Leipold stay in there like a pitcher who gives up 7 runs when the bullpen's cashed. Like, all right, you got to stay in there for 5 innings.
Like any Astros pitcher right now?
Yeah, I mean, you got to stay in there.
Yeah, you have to just get shellacked in that first year, and that's what they're going to do every week, probably the remainder of this year. And, then you get that full off. Like, he didn't even have an off season, so, get him a full off season, get him a full recruiting class, get him some spring ball, get him some summertime. And, I think you'll see a big difference next year in that alone. I don't know that it'll necessarily translate to wins, but you keep stacking those things up. The worst thing is to keep changing, because then nothing ever gets done and nothing ever gets built. So he's got very small foundation laid right now in the short amount of time he's been around. I think that'll be a much better foundation this time a year from now. And 2-3 years from now, I think he'll build up something pretty good, but it's going to take a lot of time. It is.
From Timothy, concerning KU situation, Iowa from 1960 to 1978 had the worst record in all of the Big Ten. Then came Hayden Fry.
Yeah.
And patience, and look where they've been ever since.
Leipold's got the advantage of the transfer portal. That is one way to get better quicker. And they are certainly depleted on talent. I mean, it's as clear as day when you watch them. There's not a lot of talent that's Big 12 level and capable on campus right now. So yeah, that's going to be important. But that transfer portal should help versus doing this 20 years ago.
Junior college, transfer portal, 2 or 3 classes, and then you're in a position to possibly start to at least be a part of winning, not a lot, but getting yourself back in the middle of this race. Not the championship race, but Mangino did, and he did it because his offense was spectacular. When we come back, Iowa State and Oklahoma State, Travis Hines will join us. He covers the Cyclones, and this is Sick'em 365 Radio. Pioneer Steel and Pipe, heavy-duty equipment. And equipment. Steel, pipe, metal. You want a metal building, you want to put together and build a metal building. 1, they have the product. Number 2, they have the expertise. Number 3, they can help you with a contractor, and they know the ones that will not keep things from getting done. And then also they have the incredible customer service, and they can deliver and unload the product wherever you need it done. Whether you have this big, huge area, a ranch out in the middle of the country, or something that you need done for business as well. Pioneer Steel and Pipe has been in business since 1943. Just think about that, and that alone is amazing in this day and time, because we've seen businesses come and go. No matter what the economy or whatever's been going on, or even a pandemic, Pioneer Steel and Pipe thriving right now because they have great product and great customer service. Locations in both Waco and Bryan, and open Saturdays 8 until noon. If you can't get there, or you need to get there and you can't do it during the week, you can have that time on Saturdays. Great family, great tradition, pioneerboys.com.
Payments for qualified buyers at 2.9% with $4,000 down, cash or trade. See dealer for details.
Hit the road and save on a reliable pre-owned vehicle from Richard Carr. Savings like a 7-passenger 2016 GMC Acadia for $211 a month, or a 2014 Cadillac CTS sedan for $288 a month. Plus, we pay top dollar for your trade. All pre-owned cars and trucks go through a 172-point inspection. With multiple lenders, we say yes when others say no. Hit the road and save at Richard Carr.
At Richard Carr, we give you more.
Baylor Scott and White, Southwest Sports Medicine and Orthopedics. The team physicians for Baylor Athletics, diagnosing and treating all sports-related injuries, including concussions. These specialists also provide orthopedic services for athletes and non-athletes alike, whether it's knee or shoulder pain, hand or wrist injury, orthopedic spine care, and even an arthritis and total joint clinic. Trust the doctors Baylor Athletics trusts. Baylor Scott and White, Southwest Sports Medicine and Orthopedics wants to get you back in the game.
Do you or your kids get nervous about going to the dentist? Stonewood Dental, Dr. Steve Childress, he can help.
I've spent a career taking care of patients who as children had bad experiences, and now they're adults that hate going to the dentist. If I get a kid at 3 years old and they come every 6 months and it's a happy experience, it's normal for them. Now they have an accident at 6 or 7 or 8 at school. Now they have a broken tooth or a trauma, and they have to come here They're used to lights, they're used to water in their mouth, they're used to experience, they already trust us. It's amazing what we can do with that kid without it being a negative thing. But if I see a 6 or 7 or 8 year old that's never been to the dentist, and now they have a trauma or an unfortunate unexpected toothache, it's harder to do that for that kid and it not be somewhat of a negative experience. So bottom line is I try to teach kids and adults and teenagers and everybody the way I'd want my family treated, which is where it's a necessary part of life. You just take care of it. It doesn't have to be that big a deal.
Learn more, stonewood-dental.com.
Baylor University is where lights shine bright. So let there be light. Let there be roommates and teammates, scholarship and championships. Let there be fresh starts and new traditions, fast friendships and lasting impacts. Let there be laughter. Let there be joy. Let there be light. Baylor University, where lights shine bright.
Parenting is full of surprises.
You never know what to expect.
So after our son was born, I called my Texas Farm Bureau insurance agent to set up a life insurance policy in case something happened to me.
Sawyer is now 2.
And we'll soon have a sister. There's no one else I would trust with protecting my family.
Stop by and see our agents at one of our 3 McLennan County locations.
Coverage and discounts are subject to qualifications and policy terms and may vary by situation.
Waco Regional Tennis and Fitness continues to add more weapons to your getting or staying in shape arsenal with 8 brand new treadmills ready for you to run or walk a mile or 2 or 10. And with the explosion of interest in pickleball with instructors Joe Rosa and Jody Thurman with more courts available. Waco Regional Tennis and Fitness with large flat screens stretched across the weight room with Wi-Fi available, their own app to enjoy news, business, weather, or sports. Everywhere you look, there's energy, passion, and commitment. New touchless water fountains outside of each locker room, and all the locker rooms with showers, sauna, and whirlpool. Upgraded PA system throughout the world-class tennis courts with a youth academy led by pro Britt Colby. Fitness and tennis merchandise available and a tanning bed. I promise you'll look and feel better. You just need to walk through the front door. Waco Regional Tennis and Fitness with personal trainers Christy London and Randall Corley. 40-plus group exercise classes, including twice-a-week boot camp. It's time to react today, not tomorrow. Waco Regional Tennis and Fitness on Lake Shore Drive in Waco.
Welcome back to Sikkim 365 Radio. Have you subscribed to our YouTube channel? Search 365 Sports on YouTube.
We have broken down the Big 12 where it is. Also, the chat room continues. If you have a question about Iowa State, and some of you do, Travis Hines, Ames Tribune, joins us on Sikkim 365 Radio, 365 Sports. Travis, Iowa State has had to do this before, kind of dig themselves back out of a little hole. And obviously the loss to Baylor set them back. Do you see them getting better as things have gone on? They haven't really been tested, but are they getting better?
Yeah, I think so. I mean, coming out of that Baylor game, they had Kansas the next week, which is as much of a get-right game as you're going to get in college football. But I do think coming out of their bye week and what they did at Kansas State last week was their best performance. And certainly Kansas State, no one's going to mistake them for a Big 12 contender. But Iowa State played its crispest, most disciplined football of the season. So I definitely think it was a step in the right direction. If it was a big enough one, I think will remain to be seen. And certainly this weekend with Oklahoma State coming into Ames is going to be as much of a measuring stick as any game this year. And really, it could be a fork in the road for Iowa State. If they lose, then they're probably falling back to the middle of the Big 12 pack the rest of the way. If they win, they're right back to being considered, I think, a real contender to make it to Arlington in December.
Could they do some sort of mass hypnosis on Iowa State to convince them that September 1st is really October 1st, and so on and so on?
I think at this point they got to be open to anything, because it's really kind of amazing how they have such slow starts year in and year out. And certainly some of it is the schedule where you're playing Iowa in every September. And then Baylor this year, I think, is proven to be much better than people thought. But they certainly do not play their best football in September and then really ramp up in the month of October. And I think we've seen, Matt Campbell make personnel decisions in the month of October that are really impactful, whether it's going to Brock Purdy as a true freshman in 2018 or handing off the backfield duties to true freshmen in David Montgomery and Breece Hall in October, that make a big difference. So I don't know if they need to be bolder in their personnel decisions, if they need to, put a bigger sense of urgency on that first month of the season, because whatever is going on there, like you mentioned, they're having to dig out of a hole. And when you're, just trying to get along or get to a bowl game or maybe, make the Camping World Bowl, that's doable. But if you're trying to win the Big 12, if you're trying to go to the college football playoff, which were the aspirations for this Iowa State team before the season started, every one of your 12 games is hugely important. And a loss in September is just as damaging as one in October or November. So I think if they want to consistently, play in this sandbox of national relevance that they open the season in, they got to figure it out. But I think this season in 2021, where have as much talent on the roster as they've maybe ever had, they've still got a chance to realize those Big 12 title aspirations. But the path is much more narrow because of those September losses.
You kind of answered some of my question there, Travis. I mean, there were big expectations coming in because of all the players returning. There was a nice buzz around them as a possible playoff contender, and that's pretty much done with 2 losses. But as you said, the Big 12 is still there potentially for the taking if they take care of business. What has been the response to a 4-2 start, given the excitement level heading into this season?
Things were really deflated after that Baylor loss. And, beating Kansas and Kansas State, I don't think fully has people back on board. I mean, Iowa State fans, as you guys well know, are as passionate as they come. Nobody was jumping off the bandwagon. But the level of excitement when you've got 2 losses before you get to October 1st, when you started the year with a top 10 team, was down considerably. And I think winning these last 2 games has people feeling a little bit. I don't think it'll be completely electric around this football team unless they win this Saturday. If they do that, I think they're probably, it's going to be back to a fever pitch, because then you're looking at, okay, a winless Big 12 team in West Virginia to close out the month of October, and then it's clutch time in November, and you've got Texas, you've got Oklahoma in the month of November that you can really do some damage and get back to where you hoped you'd been at the start of the season. But it's going to take a win on Saturday to really ramp things back up for a fan base that is wounded right now because there was so much hope coming into the season.
How much can they take? Obviously, the last coach to have a 500 record prior to Matt Campbell was back in the 70s with Earl Bruce. I think there was an interim coach in Chuck Banker. But that's the last time a guy left Iowa State with a winning record. They've had teams that have been successful. But how much can they take the expectations if this team doesn't end up making some sort of a run at the end?
I think it'll be hugely disappointing just because there's been, 120, 130 years of Iowa State football. And this is probably the first time in all of that time that you had realistic expectations of a national relevance, realistic expectations of winning a conference title, which they have not done since 1912. So if you don't accomplish it this year, or at least knock on the door, I don't know how it's not hugely disappointing, especially you peek into the future, nothing is guaranteed. This roster is likely to completely flip over. They've been recruiting really well, but it's still going to take a while to even hope to get back to this level. And then there's always, kind of the specter of what is Matt Campbell going to do. He's a guy that's going to get a lot of interest from blue blood programs, whether it's this offseason or the coming ones. And we've already know the NFL has come knocking on his door on a number of times. And how many times are you going to be able to turn down huge contract raises, where, we heard Detroit was offering upwards of $8 million a year for him to join the Lions. And then you add in the uncertainty of the Big 12 with realignment. I think the Big 12 did a good job in steadying the ship here with the addition of the 4 teams. But, certainly it does not have the level of stability or prestige that it had before July of this year. So I think there has to be some level of urgency to make this season as successful as possible, because Iowa State fans know how difficult and really how impossible it has been at Iowa State to get here before, and just that it's not guaranteed to get back.
Travis, on Matt Campbell specifically, you mentioned the specter of always going to be in demand. Does the potential of the Nebraska job scare Iowa State fans maybe more than most, because he is a tried and true Midwesterner that's a bunch of money they can throw at him, and that's a fan base that is desperate to get back to where they used to be?
It's a good question. It hasn't been a school that has been on my radar as, really a clear and present danger for Iowa State and Matt Campbell. I think the level of expectation at a place like Nebraska is probably out of whack with reality, as we've seen over the last 20 years. And I'm not sure that's a situation that Matt Campbell is going to want to step into. I think, to me, the interesting scenario that may play out this offseason, and at least in the college ranks, is we've seen James Franklin's name pop up, whether it's at USC or LSU or whatever else may open up again this year. If he were to leave Penn State, does Penn State make a run at Matt Campbell, which is right in his wheelhouse as a Midwesterner? It gets him back closer to his Ohio roots in a league, where you can recruit the state of Ohio maybe at a different level than you can at the Big 12. And obviously we've seen Penn State compete for and win national championships, in the last 30, 35 years, and they have very, very deep pockets. So to me, that's kind of an interesting domino to watch to see if it falls. And to me, that's probably a little bit scarier if you're an Iowa State fan than Nebraska, but obviously you can't rule Nebraska out because of the geographic location, because of the Big Ten affiliation, and certainly because of their deep pockets.
Hey, Travis, I know it gets tiring when a coach is constantly flipping in the wind, but we feel you, man. We've done that over and over and over again, so we definitely have been there. Now, in terms of the game this weekend, Oklahoma State obviously has had a tremendous start to the year and a nice comeback win down in Austin. Their defense is very good there with Jim Knowles. Jalen Warren's a tremendous running back, and the rest is kind of up and down. Iowa State, great defense. Hall is a fantastic running back, and the rest has been kind of up and down. What are your thoughts on this game? I mean, how much does it matter that this is in Ames, in your opinion, and how do you see the matchup across the board?
I think it's an interesting game. Iowa State, obviously unranked, has the 2 losses, but they're a 5-point favorite. And I think that speaks to a couple of things. Is one, that, Iowa State has been pretty good at times. They're a couple of plays away from beating Baylor. They're, a couple of uncharacteristic mistakes away from at least being more in that game against Iowa, who until, 10 days ago was the number 2 team in the country. So I do think that they match up well in this scenario, or maybe things have not gone as bad as it seems just because of relative to expectations. They're a long way off from where we thought they were. But to me, maybe the more concerning thing, if you're an Iowa State fan, is in 5 years, Oklahoma State is 4-1 against Matt Campbell. Their only win was in 2018, which was the first game Brock Purdy ever played. Came in after a couple of series for Zeb Nolan, and obviously the rest is history that he's rewritten the Iowa State record books. But they lose last year in Oklahoma, or in Stillwater, They lose the year prior in Ames on homecoming in a huge game for Iowa State that, really rhymes to this game. So I think the matchup problem with Oklahoma State, which has seemed to have Iowa State's numbers these last 5 years, is just as concerning as anything, because while Oklahoma State, you got to give a lot of credit to them with their undefeated record here. I think, they got by on the skin of their teeth early on, and, Iowa State was unable to win those types of games early. And, if you're Iowa State, I think you're feeling pretty good about the way you're playing right now, but certainly Oklahoma State has matched up well with the Cyclones over the last 5 years.
Sorry, Travis Hines, again, covers Iowa State for the Ames Tribune. Has Iowa State struggled with turnovers?
It's been kind of hit or miss. They obviously had the 3 interceptions and a fumble against Iowa, but beyond that, it hasn't been a huge issue. They've been situational, and they've been damaging. And then obviously, special teams has been hit or miss. They gave up the touchdown against Baylor. Mm-hmm. Their punting has really been a mess. And when you're playing the type of football that they do, when you have a 30-yard punt every third punt, that's not a turnover, but it can feel like it because you're ceding so much in the field position game. And when you're built to have long drives on offense and to bend but don't break on defense, if you're losing field position like they are in the punting game, that's really detrimental to what they're trying to accomplish.
Travis, thank you. Appreciate you jumping in with us. The Des Moines Register. Wait, do I get the wrong one?
It's both.
Oh, okay. That's right. You're tied together. Yeah. Sorry about that. Des Moines Register, no and then also the Ames Tribune for Iowa State as well. Travis, thank you very much. Appreciate that.
Yeah, thanks for having me on.
They play Oklahoma State this weekend. Ought to be a lot of fun. We'll have Mack Rhoades, not this next segment, but the one after that as well.
Yeah, if Oklahoma State goes and beats Iowa State, I mean, everybody better be on alert because that will be quite the start to the season for them. And like I've said over and over with Oklahoma State, it hasn't always been pretty, but it's been, win after win after win. They find a way. They found a way last weekend against Texas. They dominated Baylor. They're a good football team. They really are. And if there was not so much of a question mark at times at quarterback, I think, then, they'd probably – no-brainer would be, right in the thick of things. But there are a couple of questions about them that you go, okay, not quite sold. But if they beat Iowa State and Ames this weekend, I'm all the way sold on them. Probably running the table up until Bedlam, most likely.
All right, when we come back, the 4 o'clock hour, we'll open the lines back up to you. We'll have some text. Also, the chat room continues to kind of just go on its own. We love all that. Appreciate all that. 365 Sports on YouTube. And then also a few other notes we'll get to as well when it comes to college football. Who has the highest buyout in college football? And who among all of the coaches, how many have a buyout of $20 million or more? You might be surprised by some of the names. That next on Sikkim 365 Radio. Marco's Pizza. Pizza lovers get it. And of course they do. Marco's Pizza with four locations now. When we started doing this with Marco's, it was 3, but they've opened the new store. We're talking about in the Waco area. Marco's Pizza with Belmead, Robinson, the new location, and also available as well in China Spring and in Woodway. Marco's Pizza has more than just pizza. Most of the pizza places do, but now you have the wings, the salad, sandwiches, and all sorts of other goodies as well. And there's always some sort of kind of a dessert-type treat as well. Bob Mock has been in the pizza business a long, long time. So much so that he wanted to run his own pizza business. He was a general manager, but he started from, like most people do in the pizza business, by delivering or being behind the counter. And now he has 4 stores. He owns all of them in Waco. Marco's Pizza. Pizza lovers get it.
At long last, it's time for some college football. Bird Collision Ford proudly supports the Baylor Bears as they take the field this season. Hi, I'm Mark Stewart with Bird Collision Ford. We have some great vehicles available this season as well, so come check out our winning lineup of new Fords. Let's cheer the Bears on to victory and celebrate by buying a new or pre-owned car, truck, or SUV. Visit us anytime at bkford.com. Buying made simple at BK Ford. Sikkim Bears.
Boots add protection. Good boots help you climb better and move forward faster. And when your son or daughter steps into the boots of a U.S. Army officer, they also learn how to lead. In these boots, they'll gain more confidence with expert training in one of more than 150 occupational specialties. In these boots, they'll stand a little taller and lead a team with diverse backgrounds and areas of expertise to successfully accomplish whatever challenge comes next. In these boots, they'll earn respect with valuable experience from day one that will give them solid footing for success into the future. Highly qualified candidates who earn a spot on our team can receive comprehensive health care coverage, college tuition assistance, and a bonus of up to $40,000. See all the things your son or daughter can achieve in our boots at GoArmy.com. U.S. Army Waco Recruiting Company, 254-598-8131 or 254-776-1543.
Masters of barbecue, kings of crazy good food, and the perfect sanctuary for sports, beer, and barbecue is Coach's XXX Smoke on Austin Avenue in downtown Waco and also on Highway 84 in McGregor. A menu filled with choices like a great offensive playbook, including 3 meat combos with sides, burgers, and sandwiches, wings, loaded giant spuds, and salads. Crazy wings, chicken poppers, big boy fries, and smoking quesadillas, just some of their amazing appetizers. There's Coach Big Ol' Draft Beer, or order Zach's Spicy Bloody Mary or Coach's margaritas and mimosas while watching your favorite team play. Great pecan smoked barbecue, fun atmosphere with attention to detail, including a catering menu, and we'll quote your price to fit your budget. Coach's XXX Smoke on Austin Avenue in downtown Waco, and walking distance to the great places to shop and enjoy, and also the original location on Highway 84 in McGregor. Great food, great price, great fun. Eat where the locals eat.
The thing about having a naked buck is that you get exposed for the equipment you don't have. Take, for example, your rear end. If you don't have anything back there, you're exposed about what you don't have, and that's a life. However, if you cover that rear end with a hitch, you're telling the world, hey, I got a little junk in my bed, and I'm ready to pull something. A camper, RV, boat, trailer, jet skis, heck, even a bike rack. A hitch says, I have a life beyond driving my truck to and from work. And Pickup Outfitters is the place to get a hitch for your truck, SUV, van, even some cars. We sell and install just about any kind of hitch you need. Receiver hitches from light to heavyweight to pull just about anything. And gooseneck hitches and fifth wheels when you're ready to pull the heavy stuff. And don't forget trailer and brake controller wiring. It's so important to have wiring professionally and correctly installed by the pros at Pickup Outfitters. So it's time to cover that gaping hole in the rear end of your truck with a hitch. Installed by Pickup Outfitters. Check us out online at createacommotion.com.
Riverbend Liquor and Wine, Lakeshore Drive at North 19th Street in Waco is a hidden gem. They've got a great selection of spirits, wine, and the most extensive selection of craft beer in Waco in their gorgeous walk-in fridge. And they have an amazing array of high-end bourbons like Pinhook, Weller, Buffalo Trace, Brush Creek, Hotel, Garrison Brothers, Thomas S. Moore, Hooten Young, and Bardstown. Great customer service and a convenient and speedy drive-through window. Riverbend Liquor and Wine. Find out more on Facebook and Instagram.
Welcome back to Sikkim 365 Radio.
They're going to hand it off. Got the first down. And Moore still going. Smith still on his feet. Got a little help from his friends. Touchdown Bears.
The 4 o'clock hour is sponsored by Boozer's Jewelers, the wedding ring store, specializing in custom jewelry and repair, all in-house.
Now here's David Smoak, Paul Catalina, and Craig Smoak.
So I get this. I've been getting this in the email section. The last couple of weeks I've really noticed it. It's called The Blitz. Blitzsports.com, and this is filled with everything you could imagine, maybe even more than you ever have time to read. But who right now among all college football, and I'll let the chat room do this if you want, but we'll try to get through this, and Mack Rhoades is next. Who among all college football coaches, not their buyout, which school would owe right now a coach the most money if they fired him? This all comes, of course, Ed Orgeron's going to get around $16 or $17 million a year.
I would think Saban.
Jeff Grimm said Jimbo. Paul, Craig, you got an answer?
Dabo.
All right, Dabo's number 2.
Boom.
Dabo's buyout, the school would owe him $47.5 million.
Jeez. That's insane, man.
Saban's $38.4 million.
Okay.
He's the highest paid coach right now per year, scheduled to make $9.5 million this year. And I know that Jimbo signed the extension as well.
You know, I will say those coaching salaries, like I guess I did not keep up, on the details and the numbers the last couple of years. Because when I looked at it, like one of those USA Today lists, I was just like, really? That's where we are now? 7, 8, 9. Like, it used to be 4,
highest
5.
paid people in some states.
And now, and now it's like, we're not far from the multiple $10 million a year type of head coaches, the way it's going. And it's kind of hard to argue against name, image, likeness and things like that when you look at these lists and you see $47 million buyouts and – yeah, the college football wasn't thinking that through all the way when they decided to, try and
it's
stiffen up on some other things.
I'll tell you, and I've talked to ADs about this, off the record, just so that they can. But basically, they negotiate against themselves when they give extensions. That's what they do.
Yeah,
they negotiate against themselves, and if a guy's gonna go to the NFL or he's gonna leave and go to a different school, then fine, it's hard, but I get it because it's hard to find really good coaches, but you are giving them all the power, and then you have a situation where they have now, when you give someone who hasn't achieved what you wanted them to a 5-year extension 2 years into their 5-year deal, and then you fire him 2 years later, you essentially took away any motivation they had to do anything because they're getting that money anyway.
52 or 3 coaches. I can't see because this is a very small type. 52 or 53 coaches are now making $3 million or more per year. Number one, Jimbo Fisher. And a lot of you on the chat room, a ton of you said Jimbo Fisher because he just signed the extension. His buyout would be $95,575,000. That's if all of a sudden they decided to get rid of him.
But he doesn't have a buyout the other way. Like, he can just leave.
He can leave. I don't know. Number two is Dabo, $47.5 million. Nick Saban, $38.4 million. Next in line at $28 million is at $30 million. Tom Allen at Indiana. $30 million the school would owe him.
All right.
He turned, last year they had a very successful team. This year it's been kind of hit and miss. $28 million, Matt Campbell.
Yeah, and I'm curious about that, talking with Travis. We dealt with that with Matt Rule for 3 years, and that was an annoyance. It really was. I loved covering Matt Rule and those teams and all that, but I'm more than happy to be covering Dave Aranda now too. But, that wore on you, like the constant, is he, isn't he, is he, isn't he. So Matt Campbell could be in Ames for another 20 years. That means there's going to be another 20 years of speculation every single year, so long as he's there. And I feel for Iowa State fans in that way. That's annoying.
$25 million, Lincoln Riley. At $28 million, Ryan Day. These are some of the the bigger schools you think of. But here's the others at $20 million or more. Wait a minute. Scott Frost. I'm telling you, Nebraska doesn't have that kind of money. I know they do, but they don't. At $20 million, let's see here. Josh Heupel. At $20 million, Luke Fickell. And at $20 million, is that right? Neil Brown.
And Nick Rolovich has a pretty big buyout, but that's why I'm wondering what's going to happen there.
Nick Rolovich was making over $3 million a year. His buyout is only $4.3 million. Okay. So that'll all kind of be tied up. All right, so that's just a note from this. The Blitz is called thesportsblitz.com. It's really, really good. And some information that blew me away, some of the money that is out there. There's a bunch at $10 million to $19 million as well. Yeah. All right, Paul, 2 calls.
All right, let's go to Chad in Anaheim. You are on the BetUS caller line. Thanks for holding.
Hey, how's it going, man?
Doing well.
I just wanted to talk about, Caleb Williams in Oklahoma. I think that we found the guy. I don't know if anybody else is thinking that we haven't. I think I did see our defense kind of slightly decline this last week, but from what I'm seeing from him, and if we get another couple good years with him, and he keeps playing the way he's playing, I don't see why we don't continue that streak of Big 12 championships. I don't know if everybody agrees or not.
I don't even know if they were going to not have it, even if it was still Spencer Rattler. But they did need a spark, no question.
I think Caleb Williams has given them their identity back on offense. Whatever they were missing in the big plays or the continuity between the playmakers. That was the other thing, is that Spencer Rattler wasn't really getting the ball to the big play guys. Marvin Mims hadn't scored a touchdown all year until Caleb Williams came in the game. So whatever was different there between Caleb and Spencer, he's given them what they are back. And part of it, I think, is, if you look at Lincoln Riley's most successful quarterbacks, the 3 that are, top picks in the draft or all started in the NFL, and Jalen Hurts, Kyler Murray, and Baker Mayfield, they're all really mobile and can escape and do things. That's not really Rattler's game. He's not statuesque, but he's certainly not Kyler Murray or Jalen Hurts when it comes to running the ball, but Caleb Williams is. And he's a bigger version of that. He's a huge dude. So now you've got this big guy who can move just like they do, and it's given the offense what they are again.
Yeah, I think he's the real deal. I think he's a damn good football player, and they are night and day in terms of energy and attitude from where they were with Spencer Rattler, a quarterback. I don't know what happened this offseason and what happened during the first few weeks to where it just appeared from the outside looking in like they had soured on him so much, but you cannot deny the simple eye test of watching that team with him at quarterback versus watching them with Caleb Williams at quarterback. Mm-hmm. It's not a comparison in terms of how much more challenging they look now with Caleb Williams back there, and how much more energetic and just, big play-wise, they just seem to be on the cusp a lot more than they were with Spencer Rattler during the first few games of the year. So, yeah, I think Caleb Williams has been a revelation. I know there was a lot of hype surrounding him as a high school recruit, but I certainly didn't expect a situation where he would be replacing Spencer Rattler, in Dallas, and then just straight up taking the job from him. And, last week, I'm sure that there was a lot of planning for specifically Caleb Williams, and he passed that test. And, I do agree with you, though. I think the defense, there should be some room for concern there. They are not, some just stout unit that you should just feel like they're going to show up every week and you don't have to worry about it. No, I do think there is some concern there with that defense, but I do think they're plenty good enough now on offense, once again, with Caleb Williams, that it is going to be shades of the last few years, more so than it looked like the last few weeks.
They've gained their explosion back. And they didn't have much of it. It just seemed like that was few and far between. Paul, quick call.
All right, Jeff in Mexico on the LSU coaching position. Jeff, thanks for your call.
Hey, roll tide, guys.
Roll tide.
I was calling about the LSU job. I know a lot of people are throwing names out there, like Aranda, or they were even talking Fickle and that. But why would a coach want to go to LSU when LSU is firing Orgeron after winning a national championship 2 years ago? I mean, with expectations that they have, it's really unrealistic. They've only won, they won a championship in 2007 and then 2019, so that's 12 years, and now they just fired this coach. I wouldn't want that job. That's a lot of pressure.
Well, Jeff, I think it's...
Well, they also won in 03.
They won in... when Matt Flynn won it, who was the guy?
They beat Oklahoma.
Yeah, that's right.
But I do think this. I don't think this was just about them struggling on the field. I think the LSU athletic department kind of expected them to drop off because they lost literally everyone. And then that takes a little time to replace. It was the other thing.
Saban has that happen every year.
Yeah, but I mean, this was a way, it's just a tidal wave.
Yeah, this was like the staff and the players.
The staff and the players and all that. And Orgeron stepped into a good situation. He kind of fell into a good situation, which all he needed was a quarterback. He had coordinators. He had defense, offense, everything. They finally got the quarterback in Joe Burrow. Joe Burrow leaves. So does everyone else, literally. And then you can't build it back up. So that was just the most minor part of it. To me, it's the way that the things that are off the field, away from football, were handled by Ed Orgeron were not very good.
Yeah, it was almost like termites, and it's unfortunate. One thing, the reason you do take the LSU job, the last three coaches at LSU have won a national title.
Yeah,
Nick Saban, Les Miles, and Ed Orgeron. So obviously, we know the commitment. We know the fan base is amazing. But that's also a reason you do take the job as well. But you're right. That's kind of like that story about Nebraska with Steve Peterson when they fired a coach at 9-3 and had won 75% of his games. Some people were turned off by that and didn't want to go up to Lincoln, and no one now does either.
Well, yeah, and even if LSU was 0 right now, I mean, that's still a coveted job. I mean, it's a spot in the top conference. It's a lot of money. It's a lot of money at the school based on your conference affiliation, and it's a chance to, find that same success where they've been able to win 3 national titles in the last 20 years. So, I'm sure there's a lot of guys out there that feel like, man, if I get that LSU job, I would clean up in Baton Rouge. And, Matt Rhule, he was at Temple, and he saw Baylor in the midst of Baylor being the most awful situation, at least on the surface. He still saw an opportunity there. So no matter how toxic a situation may be, there will always be somebody out there, and there will always be enough egos that somebody feels like they can be the one to get it back on track. And I think with LSU, it's easily fixable. I mean, really, in the grand scheme of things, it's going to take – it's not like you're going to take a couple years to have to build it back up and, rebuild and do all that. No, I don't think it's a long process like that. So, yeah, it's a coveted job for a lot of different reasons, mostly because SEC money and the chance to win championships. So I'm sure there will be a lot of people interested in that opportunity.
Some coaches build and sustain. Some coaches know exactly what they're getting into and know that it's a good time to be somewhere, and they take advantage of what already has been built. When we come back, Mack Rhoades, Baylor's Director of Athletics, and maybe even ask him that question next on Sikkim 365 Radio.
Lance Donaldson, eXp Realty, a good friend of mine, and if you are looking for a home or trying to sell the one you're in, you need to give Lance a call, and it's a seller's market right now in the real estate industry pretty much everywhere, and you're going to want someone who can navigate you through that seller's market so that not only do you get the best deal in your house, that when you buy a new one, you don't dump all the money you just made down the new house. You don't want to do that. You want a realtor in your corner. There's a house on my street that says for sale by owner. Guess what? It's been for sale by owner for months and months and months in a seller's market. If you don't want to have that happen to you, then you need to call a realtor like Lance Donaldson and a Donaldson family team brokered by eXp Realty. So just look him up, lancedonaldson.exprealty.com, or Google Lance Donaldson eXp Realty.
When it comes to me and my money, I know the way it should be. I need a partner I can count on. That's Genco and me.
Refinance your vehicle today at Genco with rates as low as 1.69% for 48 months and have 90 days of no payments. Refinancing can lower your payment, so you pay less for your car. Apply online and get an additional 0.1% off our already low rate. Thank you, Genco. And don't forget, your vote counts. Vote today for your local school to win $1,500 with Genco's School Spirit Competition. For more information, go to gencofcu.org.
Annual percentage rate subject to change without notice, subject to credit approval, membership eligibility, and loan policies. NCUA Equal Housing Lender.
They're people I trust. They treat me like family. My money, my future, my credit union. Genco.
At Ideal MRI, we feel blessed to be a part of the Waco community. We're a small family business right here in Central Texas, and our goal is to bring down the cost of healthcare while maintaining high quality. At times like this, the cost of healthcare has never been more important, and unfortunately, significant illnesses and injuries still occur. That's why Ideal MRI is open and here to serve you through the difficult time. We offer premium MRIs just like a hospital with state-of-the-art technology and specialists, but you'll pay less. Sometimes thousands of dollars less, whether you're using insurance or not. At Ideal MRI, we accept most insurance and there are no hidden costs, even offering financing if that's needed. Everything included in the price, and you'll not get something as a surprise in the mail later on. If you need an MRI, ask your doctor about Ideal MRI. They'll know. You can schedule an appointment safely from home online in minutes at idealmri.com or give us a call, 833-IDEAL-MRI, idealmri.com.
Hey, this is Bryce Petty, former starting quarterback and two-time Big 12 champion, and I know firsthand the importance of being in top shape both on and off the field. So listen up, men. If you're feeling beat down day in and day out and looking for that high-performance edge that separates the men from the boys, then look no further than the Petty Clinic Low T in Waco. Petty Clinic is a comprehensive men's healthcare clinic with an atmosphere catering to men. Board-certified Dr. Kent Petty has a special interest in offering the highest quality medical care to men of all ages. Some of the services offered include screening and treatment for low testosterone or thyroid, infertility, high blood pressure, diabetes, high cholesterol, sleep apnea, while offering comprehensive wellness exams and complete men's health lab panels. High performance men, remember, it's not just a Petty thing. This is Bryce Petty, encouraging you to reach out and Google search Petty Clinic Low T or go to pettycliniclowt.com and get your complimentary lab screening today.
Brad Boozer, Boozer's Jeweler, joins us on Sikkim 365 Radio. Boozer's Jewelers on the corner of Valley Mills and Lake Air Drive. It's a staple of the Waco economy. And you're about to approach this time of the year where you have the holidays, special gifts. It's not that you don't have that every single day. What are some of the things you have coming up?
Christmas is the biggest time of year for engagements. You know, we kind of call ourselves the wedding ring store. We do all of our own custom work in-house. I've got 2 expert jewelers on staff every day. We can make anything from scratch. We kind of pride ourselves, probably 9 out of 10, every engagement ring we do is actually made custom to what the customer wants.
People look at that, oh my God, I can't afford it. I can't afford something like that. You've shown me examples that you could fit pretty much any budget.
It doesn't cost any more to custom make something. You still have gold, you still have diamonds, and you still have labor. Best thing about a custom piece is if you have any old jewelry or heirloom jewelry or something passed down from a grandma or somebody, we can take that jewelry and use it towards your wedding ring for the sentimental value, and then you've got the product, and then it's just a little bit of labor and a little bit of design on your part of what you actually want.
You want to know why they're successful? Brad Boozer, the owner of Boozer's Jewelers on the corner of Valley Mills and Lake Air in Waco.
Welcome back to Sikkim 365 Radio. Our weekly segment with Baylor Director of Athletics Mack Rhoades is brought to you by Edward Jones Investments Brokers, Tom Albers, Brad Wilson, Ben Erlinson, and Cam Heathcott. Edward Jones, making sense of investing.
We will hear from Baylor Director of Athletics Mack Rhoades here momentarily. Sikkim 365 Radio. Craig's off the radar in about 25 minutes or so. Baylor coming off the win against Brigham Young, a huge crowd, great moment, great weekend, a future Big 12 opponent as well, and now 6-1 on the year, joined by Mack Rhoades, Baylor Director of Athletics. There's a lot of things I want to ask you. I'm going to try to put them in order. First of all, how cool was just the weekend itself, the Brigham Young factor, the factor of part of the Big 12 family, and eventually will be just overall the weekend with Brigham Young?
Yeah, I thought it was a great weekend. One, just I think the Baylor family, all of us, were just excited to have homecoming back again, and to be able to experience all of those festivities, and then to play a really, really good, BYU football team, ranked coming in, and to welcome them into the Big 12. And I want to say thank you to all of the Baylor family, because we have heard from so many of the BYU contingency just how welcome they felt, just the hospitality over the top. They could not say just more just positive, kind things about the way they were received here in Waco and on the Baylor campus. So overall, really a great.
Would you like them to lead a seminar on how to travel to support your team? Because that was impressive.
Yeah, that really was, and you knew that, right? That's part of who they are. And, they have the national following, very, very similar to like a Notre Dame. And we saw that firsthand on Saturday. And they made some noise early on. And I was glad that as the game went on, we were able to keep them quiet. But just a really, really solid performance by our football team.
Yeah, Mac, let's delve into that a little bit. I mean, Dylan Doyle, what an incredible game for that young man with 2 touchdowns on offense, also a sack as one of your starting linebackers there on defense. Abram Smith has been, what a brilliant coaching move that was in the offseason, knowing they didn't have quite the right type of guy to move Abram back over. I mean, sitting at 6-1 right now and firmly in the mix and kind of getting to, catch your breath a little bit. I mean, just how are you feeling at this stage of the season?
Yeah, I think it's Craig. It's awesome to go into a bye week with a win. I think just from a psyche standpoint, I think it's really good for everyone. Now, can't lull, can't go to sleep. Got to continue to work hard and do all of the little things that have allowed us and have led to 6-1. But you mentioned those two particular individuals, and I don't know if anybody caught the post game by Dylan, but both special young men, and glad they're playing for us. And again, 6-1, 7 games in. I think what's most exciting is you can almost visually see the team developing before your eyes, before our eyes, and they seem to be getting just a little bit better each and every game. And Again, I think what's probably even more exciting is I think we can get better and we can be even better and we haven't played our best football. And what I liked about Saturday, I thought it was a really clean game, zero penalties. We executed and played well on both sides of the ball, and special teams was really solid again. So again, a really complete performance, but still the ability to get better in all areas.
In Matt Rhule's last year, when he took you guys to the Sugar Bowl, in the middle of the year, there was a critical win against Iowa State. And I know that Dr. Livingstone and you both extended his contract, and it was because of how huge that win was and what was going on with the program. And obviously it didn't matter because he was gone at the end of the year. You're now seeing Dave Aranda in year 2 put some things up. We're also seeing his name out there. I know you can't talk about contracts and extensions and all that, but I have to ask, are you looking at that and how much interest is coming his way? I said earlier in the week, he seems to be about a Scott Drew, Grant Taft type fit for Baylor as anyone you've ever had.
Yeah, this is, a little bit cliche, but, you want people, you want to hire people, you want people in your organization that others outside your organization value and think highly of and may even, one day try to hire them. And so it certainly speaks to Coach Aranda, and he'll be the first to tell you it's not just him, it's the staff and it's our young men. And, they've done a terrific job, and want to be cautious. We're 7 games in, and we still have 5 more to play, and we're certainly on the right path and headed in the right direction. And when we were at 0-0 before the season started, had great confidence in Coach Aranda. We were able to visit and talk on Sunday, as we normally do. And, we probably talked right as the noise or the news, I should say, coming out of LSU, became public. And, we always have frank and transparent conversations. I know that, just within that conversation, we talked about, and he talked about what a great fit he believes he is at Baylor and wants to stay at Baylor. He, was really forthright in saying that. And I certainly appreciate that, as a first time head coach, and, all of a sudden your name's being mentioned in some national, articles, just talking through that, how that impacts all the various people around. And we've been through this, it felt like, I guess 2 years in a row at least with Matt, and just making sure that it's handled the right way. And first and foremost, just being genuine about it. And I really appreciated the conversation that we had. And again, he reiterated to me that he feels like that he and certainly his family are a great fit here at Baylor, and they want to be here.
Mack, do you, when you hire a coach, and obviously you're not trying to hire a guy for a 2-3 year hit, you want decade-long hires and plus, do you just have to trust your gut that that's going to work out, or do you get a real sense from people?
Paul, say that again. I'm sorry. I'm not sure I followed it. Say that again.
Like when you hire a football coach, when you hire someone, you're obviously not hiring like I just got to get through the next 2 years. It's not your plan. You want someone who's going to be here hopefully for a decade or more in any position that you hire. Do you have to just trust your gut, or do you get a genuine sense of what they want to do career-wise when you hire them, knowing that athletics is not ever consistent?
Yeah, it's a really good question, and I think it's more art than it is science. as you're going through that process. And you're certainly not wanting to hire somebody that you think is just going to be there 2 or 3 years and then move on, because that change is hard, especially in football when you think about just the number of people involved, the number of student athletes, the number of staff, families, all of that. And so I don't know that you go into it, you're sitting there, hey, we got to find somebody that's going to, finish out their career here and be here, 10, 15, 20 years. But you want somebody that sees the vision for the institution and at least, you certainly feel like is going to be there for, 5+ years, and really, grow something that is sustainable and has deep roots. And, I'll say this, our previous, football coach, life happens, things change. And I really believe, when he got here, he felt like, first of all, think about the circumstances he walked into, but, he felt like this was going to be something longer than what it ended up being. And again, with Dave, I know that he feels really, really good about Baylor. His family's happy here, and hopefully he's here for a long time.
Mack, do you like? I mean, I know there's a lot of other stuff going on, but did you feel like this is kind of like nice to have a break from football this weekend? I'll tell you what's nice. It's and I think you guys know this. I'm as big a college football fan as there is. And it's going to be nice just to watch games and enjoy and not have to worry about the outcome and all of the things that come afterward. And so, yeah, it's a nice, reprieve and we'll certainly have soccer to watch on Thursday and Sunday. But it'll be a nice break and a time to catch your breath a little bit.
Derwin Gray. I saw some of the chatter. People were talking about he was on campus. Dr. Gray, who was a big Brigham Young alum and from San Antonio, went to Judson High School. We know his story, his church in South Carolina. We had him on. Who sets that up? Whose idea was that? And how powerful and motivational and in a lot of ways just fantastic was his time at Baylor?
Yeah, so one, both Pastor Gray and his wife Vicky are wonderful, wonderful people, and we were blessed to have him as a featured speaker for all of our staff. We've had a cultural humility working group. We've had it for 2 or 3, I believe, 3 years. Long before any of the racial injustice. Last year and in all of those conversations, it's something that's really important to us. One of our operating principles is treat everyone with dignity and respect. And, that's a work in progress. And so we're very intentional about, conversations. And so, we have Corey Pinkett and Joe Gonzalez who lead our cultural humility working group. The rest of that group works closely with me and the executive team. And so, this was something that, bringing in Pastor Gray was something that, we had, talked about throughout the summer and, again, wanting to be intentional. This particular conversation was about unconscious bias. And, I thought it was, I thought it was unbelievable the way he kind of flipped that and we need to be about conscious love rather than unconscious bias. And I just thought a really powerful message for all of us. And again, that leads to continued conversation. If all we do is just listen to him and then not talk about it, again, then I'm not sure that we've really really have learned much or have done, Pastor Gray or any speaker, justice. And so we're gonna continue to be committed to this idea of treat everyone with dignity and respect. And this is just part of the process. And again, just grateful for him because tremendous message. If he was just wonderful, and so was his wife Vicki.
You've got a number 20 ranked football team for the time being, and that could obviously go both directions depending on how they come out of the bye week next Saturday against Texas. But you also have a couple of top 10 preseason basketball teams. I mean, the hoops fever is starting to rise a little bit, Mac. I know football's still very much going on, but your excitement level, I mean, obviously last year was quite a bit of fun with that national title. The men expected to be good again, and now Nikki Collin making her debut as head coach. Where's your excitement level for basketball around the corner?
Yeah, I love it. This is a great time of year. It's hard on staff because as you get into basketball, we're trying to juggle all of these different events. But Big 12 Media Days today for women, and picked preseason favorite, and Alyssa preseason player of the year, and Jordan Lewis preseason newcomer of the year, and Queen preseason all Big 12. And so excited for Nikki and that staff. And, you mentioned, the preseason AP poll came out today, number 7 in the country. And then, tomorrow, Big 12 Media Days for men's basketball, and the AP preseason out today for them, number 8. So to have, both in the top 10, to have football, men's and women's basketball, all ranked nationally top 20 or top 25. I'm not sure, how many out there are able to say that right now. We certainly don't take it for granted. Know that it can go either way, but just excited to see both programs play. Right around the corner. If you think about it, first exhibition game for women's basketball is the 27th, and the men, have a season opener on November 12th, and a lot of new faces, newcomers for both programs, and I'm fired up. I'm excited to see them play, and you think about Coach Drew and the national championship, and to lose. Mark and Maceo and Jared and Davion, and to be able to come back the next year and be ranked in the top 10, man, that's a testament to him and the staff and what a great job they're doing.
Mac, I got a question, and it's not, and obviously the news about what's happened at Washington State, and you guys tried to educate everybody as much as you could about what you thought was best for everyone involved when it came to COVID, the vaccine, and all of that. Would you ever have asked somebody would you ever told somebody they had to be vaccinated to keep their job?
Yeah, I think, that's such a tricky question. And the reason why I say that, Smoak, is one, we did not, and we would not. But, for that circumstance, in the state of Washington, that governor made the that he made that it was a mandate that you had to be vaccinated. We did not do that here, and would not do that here, and could not do that here. And our vaccination rate for the entire athletic department, this would include staff, student athletes, coaches, everybody's right at about 85%, which is a really, really good rate. Obviously there's those that have decided not to get the vaccine, and we're going to respect their wishes, their desire to not get the vaccine.
Thank you for your time. We appreciate it. It's good news on the conversation with Coach Aranda. You know how many people have been waiting to at least hear a little bit about that. Thanks for your time. We appreciate it. Congratulations on 6-1.
All right. Thank you, guys. Appreciate y'all.
Mack Rhoades, Baylor's Director of Athletics, on many things, including the weekend of Brigham Young and much more, the start of men's and women's basketball, Women's Media Day today. Tomorrow we'll have a Baylor men's basketball player on the show as well. But I thought his conversation, again, and a lot of people can raise their eyebrows on whatever, and Craig put this up. He said that he and Dave Aranda had a conversation. As the LSU news was becoming public, he said Aranda reiterated he's a great fit at Baylor and wants to stay at Baylor. He was very forthright in saying that, and I appreciate that. And then I put up a little bit longer thread on the same quotes along with a couple of other things as well. And you could take that as you want. But I would think that you can understand that Mack Rhoades probably wouldn't have brought that up if he didn't feel pretty good about it as well.
I'm not worried about it.
Not either, at all.
I mean, for one thing, I don't know that LSU is going to be interested, and I don't know that USC or whoever else you want to throw in the mix will be interested. I mean, you know, with Matt Rhule, like, we knew there was attention. Like, we knew that teams were interested in him. We don't know that really about Dave Aranda. We know that teams could be interested because they're 6-1 and he's a fresh head coach and, you know, all that. But I think he's – and look, I have totally seen every scenario under the sun, every fan base that's claimed, well, yeah, he really loves it here, and I've seen all of that, only to watch guys walk out the door. So I don't say this lightly, but I really do think he is the perfect fit for Baylor. I mean, I really do. I don't think you could have done much better than you did with Dave Aranda. So if he feels that way as well, I mean, yeah, I wouldn't be surprised whatsoever to see him here for the long term.
All right, when we come back, Craig, we'll have Off the Radar. Paul continues to wait for the Red Sox to hit another grand slam. David Hellman on the Cowboys at 5, and also John McClain on the NFL at 5:30. We appreciate you so much. This is Sikkim 365 Radio.
Richard Carr, Buick GMC Cadillac, they have got, a lot going on right now over at Richard Carr. They've, of course, had the little bit of a delay with the computer shortages. That's been the bad news. That's negatively affected all vehicle inventory worldwide at all dealerships. But the good news is that General Motors just announced they're restarting production, and they will release a steady flow of vehicles through the fall. So cars and trucks are coming, and now is the time to contact Richard Carr and get your name on a new Buick, GMC, or Cadillac as they are being shipped. Drive a new car or truck sooner when you get on Richard Carr's Choose Your Inbound Vehicle list, and you can get your car or truck first as they arrive. If you need a pickup, well, how about getting a Sierra from Richard Carr? The ideal combo of power and strength combined with refinement and luxury makes Sierra the best truck on the road. If you're considering a roomy SUV, well, then consider the Buick. The lineup of Buick SUVs offer the size and versatility to fit every lifestyle. Or perhaps you want the ultimate combination of sophistication and power in a new Cadillac XT6 or Escalade. Cars and trucks are coming, so call or contact Richard Carr online with what you want and let them know that you want to get on their Choose Your Inbound Vehicle list today and get your vehicle before anyone else. And if you're looking to save and drive today, Richard Carr is also loaded with premium pre-owned cars and trucks. They all go through a 172-point inspection, and Richard Carr is all about saying yes when others say no. 100% credit approval is always the goal. And for those in the greater Waco area, Richard Carr is your local hometown dealership, so give them a chance to earn your business with great prices, free oil changes on new cars and trucks, and superior service after the sale. So get your name on that inbound vehicle list today so you can get that new car or truck before most anyone else. Richard Carr, owned, operated, and run by loyal and proud Baylor Bears.
From the first workout to the last practice, sports is an incredible and rewarding challenge. Hi, everyone. This is Dan Ingham with the First National Bank of Central Texas, and we're proud to support each athlete, every parent, and our educators. From families, small businesses, to the biggest industry, we're here to help. With remarkable products like mortgage lending, we've got banking ideas that fuel big dreams. The First National Bank of Central Texas. Familiar faces making local decisions.
Member FDIC, Equal Housing Lender.
Shorty's Pizza Shack at 12th and Bagby is a homegrown, family-owned and operated must-visit pizza place in Waco. Fantastic pizza by the slice or get the whole pie to share. Great happy hour specials every single day, and it's not just pizza. Great wings. You have to try the Sikkim sauce, chili cheese fries, pizza pillows, and more. Dine in for a great hangout or carry-out. Order online at shortyspizzashack.com or do yourself a favor and bring your crew to the restaurant at 12th and Bagby. Shorty's Pizza Shack. Tell them Paul sent you by.
Three Nations Brewing Company has 16 different beers on draft with a new beer every Friday. It also offers 2 air-conditioned tap rooms, a large indoor beer hall, a second-floor mezzanine offering a great overview of the brewing company and equipment and patio where you can relax under the shade. Plus, you can now experience the new Three Nations Beer Garden Grill on our shaded patio with socially distanced seating for your enjoyment. Grab a cold beer and enjoy a bite from our freshly prepared and delicious menu. Street tacos, quesadillas, freshly cooked burgers and dogs, and veggie burgers too. State Fair tornado fries, nachos, and so much more, all prepared and cooked on site. So come visit the award-winning Three Nations Brewing Company on East Vandergrift off I-35 in Carrollton.
In the market for a quality metal building? Since 1943, Pioneer Steel and Pipe has helped Central Texas residential and commercial customers with metal building design, panel options, building components, and trim options. Pioneer Steel and Pipe's residential line is energy efficient, offers low maintenance, reduces insurance payments, is impact resistant, and carries up to a 45-year limited warranty. In addition, they can also help you find a metal building contractor for your project. Pioneer Steel and Pipe with locations in Waco and Bryan and at pioneersboys.com.
One size fits all. That may be all right for an adjustable belt or cheap sunglasses, but when it comes to your financial needs, no one wants a one-size-fits-all strategy. Cam Heathcott, your Edward Jones financial advisor, knows that his most important goals are yours. That's why he takes the time to understand your needs, knowing you. That's how Edward Jones makes sense of investing. Cam Heathcott, covering Conroe and Houston, 936-756-7717 or cam.heathcott@edwardjones.com. Edward Jones, member SIPC.
Don Humidor, your home with a 48-foot walk-in humidor with the elite cigar brands from around the world, including the #1 cigar of the year, Aging Room Cuatro Nicaragua. Plus, they have the great brands like Macanudo and Artur Fuente, Rocky Patel, Aston, and so much more. CBD, great for sore muscles, aches and pains, sleep, Vita Dreams, and anxiety, mild depression, general health and wellness. Their staff very knowledgeable on the subject. If anyone is curious about CBD, ask Carol and Ashley. Don Humidor in the Townwood Shopping Center off Valley Mills in Waco.
Welcome back to Sikkim 365 Radio. It's time for Craig Smoak's Off the Radar. Brought to you by Pickup Outfitters. Since 1997, we've been outfitting trucks, SUVs, and vans at 220 Lake Air Drive or createacommotion.com.
All right, welcome into Off the Radar. Just a short segment taking a look at some of the stories outside of the normal college football or Dallas Cowboys discussions that we have. And there are quite a bit of storylines going on outside in the other parts of the sports world. And go ahead and start off with some baseball, and start off with baseball because of what took place with the or actually I want to start off with Monday Night Football. Monday Night Football. Last night, great game. I was wondering your guys' thoughts on the big fourth down call there at the end.
I like it. Go win on the road. You're the Bills. You should do it. Look, you got a 6'5", 240-pound quarterback who had to go less than a yard. Most of the time, that's an easy thing. But Simmons made a fantastic play on the line. It completely blew up Deion Dawkins, the guy who was blocking him. He took him down and Josh Allen, who slipped at the same time. So it was really impressive. I like it when you go win a game. I like it. If they have 17 games, the Bills are going to win most of their games. This one is not going to derail them in any way now.
We're seeing more and more people go for it on fourth down. And no matter what, we've seen Aranda do it. We've seen Mike McCarthy do it. I know that at times you're like, sometimes he does it when you don't think he should, and vice versa. Same thing. It's it's part of the analytics. It's part of the analytics. It's also just a gut feeling. I didn't think they did anything wrong. The problem is that has anyone ever been bigger, better, faster, stronger than Derrick Henry?
No. He's a freak show. He really is. And had maybe a couple texts back and forth with my sister, and one of them I sent he should have picked Derrick Henry at number 1 overall.
Oh, she was not. No.
She's like, yeah, I know.
Yeah. I'll take a bit of the heat on that one. I told her not to.
The only person who said to draft Derrick Henry, apparently, that she talked to was her boyfriend of like several years, and he's the one she didn't listen to. She listened to everybody else, but didn't listen to him.
That's not good news.
But
no.
There was a play where Derrick Henry had like a 22-yard run, and I can't remember who the defensive back was that had to tackle him, but you could see he was like
wincing.
He was like, all right, I know I got to do this. And I'm sure he went back over the sideline and be like, hey, tell my family I love them. I mean, just this hurts.
Yeah, I mean, that was a ballsy call. It didn't work out, but like you said, it doesn't really hurt the Bills in a killer kind of way at all. They could afford to lose a game. So, yeah, they dropped to 4-2, but what a nice stop by the Titans. And Derrick Henry, he is just absolutely a freak show. That ended up being a pretty good game when all was said and done. So curious if y'all had seen that and the big fourth down call there at the very end. Elsewhere in the NFL, Texans have released defensive end Whitney Merciless. He's been with the team for 134 games, third most games played by a player in Texans franchise history. He said the parting of ways was a mutual thing, so at least it sounds like it wasn't, the longtime veteran and, things are bad and he gets cut. But he said moving to a contending team is the direction that he wanted to go, as you might imagine, especially for a vet like that, and that competing for a title would be a cherry on top of his career. Cal McNair said there aren't many players in franchise history who have impacted our organization and community the way that Merciless has, and he will always be considered a member of the organization. So Whitney Merciless, a longtime Texan, no longer a Texan.
And he'll have suitors, for sure.
Yep, he definitely will. So that is one piece of news from here in the state of Texas. Also, going back to baseball, which I accidentally actually started off with. But right now, Game 3, you got the Braves and the Dodgers. The Dodgers currently with a 2-0 lead in the bottom of the second inning. And that is Game 3 with Atlanta leading that series 2-0. So they'll need to come back to try to win.
Atlanta's come back. That's
it's the top. It's bottom of the second. It's very early on.
Boy, they miss Max Muncy, don't they? Yeah,
yes, they do. Yes, they do. Former Baylor great, Max Muncy, Baylor baseball great. But also tonight, as Braves-Dodgers is going to last here over the next few hours, most certainly, a little team by the name of the Red Sox, up 2-1. Playing host to the Astros, Game 4. And Paul, what are your thoughts at this point?
I've kind of snorted the Sox cocaine right now. I mean, it's in my veins. That game last night was
they mauled them.
And
team that mauls you, they mauled them.
What I did not realize was Lance McCullers is out. They already played most of the year without Justin Verlander. So the Astros that you would normally, Greinke is going to pitch tonight, and he's hardly pitched in a month. And so the Astros are up against it because they don't have the pitching depth that they had. The Red Sox don't have any pitching depth, but they will absolutely just knock the ball over the yard and get you into the bullpen really quickly. Eduardo Rodriguez last night got into the sixth inning, meaning that he pitched 6 innings, which is more than all of the Astros starters combined. So if the Red Sox keep that up, that's great. Really hoping the Braves, if the Red Sox would somehow make the World Series, I'm really hoping it's the Braves and not the Dodgers. But, who knows?
I say this of the Astros, and I know for our good friend Mike George, who lives and dies with them, they're also one that you have to cut the head off the snake to eventually put them away. Remember that Dodgers series?
They need to win. Yeah. They absolutely need to win tonight and put them on the ropes in a Fenway Park elimination game. Otherwise, this thing's going to get weird.
Yeah.
Yep, so that'll be tonight starting at just after 8 o'clock. Or is it just after 7 or just after 8, Paul?
Just after 7.
Okay, just after 7 because it looked like Eastern
7:08
time.
Central. Yep.
Yeah, 7:08. Couldn't tell if this was Central or Eastern time on here. But, right now, bottom 2, Dodgers up 2-0 on the Braves. Braves up 2-0. And then tonight, Red Sox up 2-1. Against the Astros, it'll be Zach Greinke on the hill for Houston and Nick Pivetta for the Boston Red Sox.
Yeah, Pivetta's a young guy, had a nice regular season, but the playoffs in Fenway Park's a different thing. I will say this, though, the funniest things I've ever seen last night was in the post game. It was so loud on Lansdowne Street where they were doing the post game, and they're all cheering for Big Papi, and Big Papi's going, "Listen to the genius, listen to the genius," and it was, I mean, he's rounding them up, and they're yelling, "A-Rod sucks," and A-Rod's just laughing it off. He knows where he is. You couldn't hear anybody really because the crowd full of drunk Red Sox fans was deafening.
One of the cool parts of that game was Cora, the Red Sox manager, who's been in that web of what was going on 2 or 3 years ago, when his relief pitcher struck out or got Correa out and kind of started, what was he, pointing at the Apple Watch or whatever it was, and Cora jumped him. Don't do that. You could see him screaming that. He said, we just show up, we play, and we move on, and he knows that. I let him know we don't have to do that. If we're looking for motivation outside of what we're trying to accomplish, we're in the wrong business, and so you still have to win 4 games.
You know who loved it? Carlos Correa, which is why you don't do it.
Yeah.
So that'll be a good contest later on tonight between the Astros and the Red Sox. That'll be good stuff. Did you all realize, well, Paul did, of course, WNBA champion was crowned over the weekend. Paul, your breakdown.
The Chicago Sky, right?
Candace Parker, Paul.
Yeah, Candace Parker, long overdue for
Candace. You actually did know that, okay.
Yeah, I did. And I do know this as well. That the Phoenix Mercury have been fined by the WNBA.
Yeah, that's led me to this.
For not doing media.
Yep.
And who plays for the Phoenix Mercury?
Brittany Griner.
Who did not want to do media after they lost in Oklahoma City.
I think I saw a note, and I don't know, it might have been from Michelle Vopel, who's covered women's sports forever, and we've had her on when it's come to women's basketball at college. She was disappointed. I'm of the opinion, and I understand that losses can be gut-wrenching. We've had to face this ourselves when we have tried to get interviews after gut-wrenching, shocking losses, whatever. If you're interviewed and you're always there when you win, you have to be there when you lose. It's part of the deal. No excuses. Don't give me any reason that it's a tough time.
Here's the thing. I can teach you how to get it over with quickly.
Yes.
Just be a dick when people come and ask you questions. Be there, but be like, look, it's just tough. I can't do it. Okay, it's over. I'm done with this.
But you have to be there, and you can't. And I'm going to say this. No. It does seem to happen. Am I right? More often when it's a women's team that's involved in the loss.
I don't know.
I don't know about that. I mean,
I think you're maybe thinking of Naomi Osaka and letting that influence you.
It's happened to us with that a couple times, but I don't know about nationally.
I've never seen it ever in a men's locker room, football, men's basketball, whatever. And that doesn't mean it has never happened, but in my personal experience, that's what's happened.
I will say this, that now the policy is different because of COVID, but in the last few years of the Cowboys pre-COVID, you'd be in that locker room, and if they lost a game, especially to a team they wouldn't have, you've got that 20-minute cooling off period, and then they shower. Poof. There's a lot of guys who really take that, quick shower and out the door.
Like it's running. But the NFL players, writers, Pro Football Writers Association, they keep track of that.
Yeah.
And eventually you could also find yourself signing a check.
Yeah, there were a couple guys who were pretty good at
disappearing.
One of them used to play here.
Yes, he's a wide receiver. All right. Okay.
Yeah, so they were fined $10,000. Diana Taurasi also broke through a door, apparently. Also elsewhere, Jeremy Pruitt, former Tennessee head coach, he is threatening, or his lawyer at least is threatening, a lawsuit as Tennessee will not settle with Jeremy Pruitt. The lawyer said, or gave UT an ultimatum this month per the Knoxville News, either reach a settlement with Pruitt by October 29th or face a lawsuit that has the potential to, quote, cripple UT's athletic programs for years. The university,
so how's that different?
I don't know. The university appears that they're going to be standing their ground. They have no plans to settle and have promised a vigorous defense if Pruitt does, in fact, take them to court. And a lawsuit, according to a lawyer that the USA Today or Knoxville News had talked to, said that, the lawsuit's almost a certainty if they don't come to terms on some type of an agreement. So you have Pruitt saying, hey, pay me my money or we're going to go to court. And Tennessee's saying, well, we're not paying your money, so it looks like we're going to court. So Lyons, his Pruitt's attorney, said, on behalf of my client, I could tell you that he's not happy that this is the only choice they've left him with, but he's not going to walk away without getting his day in court. He's going to file a lawsuit. They're not leaving him much choice. He had been fired back in January when they had uncovered some NCAA rules violations and whatnot, and said that he had failed to monitor or promote an atmosphere of compliance, which is a line that we hear all the time, when coaches are being fired. But he did not get any of his $12.6 million buyout money, so you can see how he is probably wanting some of that. Wanting a little bit of that.
I think he'll end up, to walk away, they'll probably come up with something, but Tennessee might just say, oh, no, we'll go all the way to the end. You end up spending more money with the lawyers and attorneys than you do and possibly even what you have to pay the guy.
Yeah, Tennessee's lawyer responded. Their general counsel said, your letter, talking to Pruitt's lawyer, said, your letter contains no denials of your client's actions. Instead, you raise vague and unsupported allegations of other violations by the university and threaten to embarrass the university publicly by revealing these alleged violations. The university emphatically denies these allegations and will not be intimidated into settling with your client based on your unsupported assertions. So, a little bit of a legal battle brewing between Jeremy Pruitt and the Tennessee Volunteers. This is a weird story from today as the NBA season is getting kicked off. I mean, the media was all set to go, and they were going to interview Ben Simmons. You know, those covering the Sixers were going to interview Ben Simmons, but he has been suspended for one game due to conduct detrimental to the team. That media session got canceled, so he will not play in their debut coming up tomorrow night against the New Orleans Pelicans. The Sixers released an official statement saying that he had been suspended for conduct detrimental, but it sounds like Sixers coach, according to Adrian Wojnarowski, threw Ben Simmons out of practice today. The suspension came shortly thereafter. Rivers told the media that, or I guess he talked about it for a little bit, and he told the media that Simmons had to leave practice because he didn't want to do what everyone else is doing. And Rivers said that it was no big deal. He just thought that he was a distraction and that he didn't want to do what everybody else was doing. So he told him he should leave.
Yeah, I wish that there had been some
you
sort
see
of.
what Joe Embiid said about him?
Yeah, I wish there was some sort of coverage all summer long about Ben Simmons and his feelings toward the Sixers, because I am totally, for one, blindsided by this.
Right? Yeah.
Shams Charania said that apparently what happened exactly was that Rivers was asking him to do some type of a defensive drill. Simmons said no. He asked him again. He said no again, and then he just said go home. So big team player, that Ben Simmons. He's in the news for every reason other than playing basketball, it feels like. I hear about him, and it has nothing to do with on the court, like 75% of the time.
You know what's sad, though, is you hear all that stuff, and if he was traded to a lot of NBA fans' teams, he'd be like, Ben Simmons is going to change everything. Yeah, probably. Not the way you want it, though.
Yeah, Adam Silver actually had a comment on it. He said he was on ESPN's NBA Today show, and he said there's a reason why we have contracts in this league. If everyone just complied according to handshakes, you wouldn't need those documents. When you have situations like this, people, of course, turn to the contract and expect players to honor it from their standpoint, and players expect teams to honor contracts. So that's kind of what he had to say on that, and I guess he was going to be monitoring it a little bit further. But I did see Joel Embiid's comments, and he pretty much just said, like, I'm over it. I'm totally over it.
Well, he does whatever he does.
Yeah, so there will be a $1.4 million fine apparently coming his way, but that's like the $5 I got in my pocket right now to most of these guys.
I feel bad for the 4 strippers he was going to dump that down. So
yeah. And finally, this is more of a somber note, and this was from yesterday. This news first broke, but closing out off the radar with the news about Dick Vitale, longtime ESPN announcer. He announced yesterday that he has been diagnosed with cancer. It's the second diagnosis of cancer he's had in the last 3 months. He had fully recovered after having surgery to remove melanoma back in the summertime. Said he's been diagnosed with lymphoma, so he'll begin treatment with steroids, 6 months of chemotherapy. He's been told he's got a 90% success rate, but he knows it's going to be a lot tougher to beat. Said he considers himself lucky, and he's seen the devastation cancer can have on families and loved ones, and it can bring you to your knees. So he's just very, very classy, as you would expect, Dick Vitale, in light of news like that. So best luck to
friend
Dickie V.
of the program.
Yeah.
For sure.
He's never not responded to a text when I've sent it to him. I don't send him that often to get him on the show. And he, of course, maybe has raised as much money for the Jim Valvano, I guess.
MEV Foundation.
Yeah, foundation as anybody, I can imagine. So good luck to Dickie V.
Yep, so not to end on a sad note, but just best wishes to Dickie V. And those are a few stories off our typical radar.
All right, at 5:11 coming up, but we'll hear from David Hellman. He covers the Cowboys. They are red hot. They have the bye week. Just in time for Tyron Smith to kind of work out his aches and pains and Dak Prescott's calf. And we'll have David Hellman with Paul Catalina is next on Sikkim 365 Radio.
This is the best season for sports betting. You got the NBA starting tonight. The NHL's already underway. MLB playoffs, plus college football, NFL football, all NFL football, NFL, all of that there for you. And go to betus.com. Use promo code SICKM125 and SICKM200. There's a wide array of stuff to bet on, and not even sports in this country, sports all the way around the world. You want to bet on anything? Believe me, they've got action on almost everything. I can almost guarantee that they've got your game at betus.com. So use promo code SICK'EM125 for a 125% bonus on a cash deposit, or SICK'EM200 if you use crypto. That will get you a 200% bonus. So go to betus.com, America's favorite sports book, betus.com, promo code SICK'EM125 and SICK'EM200.
New cars and trucks are coming. New car inventory is low, but GM just announced they will release a steady flow of vehicles through the fall. Now is the time to get your name on Richard Carr's first in-line priority list and get a car or truck first. Call Richard Carr Motors or go online to discuss cars and trucks in transit today. Go to richardcarr.com for more details.
At Richard Carr, we give you more.
Y'all listen up. Let me tell you something about group meals from Rudy's Barbecue. It's got all you need for all the folks you gotta feed, smoked meat, sides, and more. There's everything down to the tablecloth, just like the one that you see at the store. At a bridal shower, it's better than flowers. In a long distance meeting, it'll pass the hours. It'll feed all the cousins at a family function. It's better than potluck at a church luncheon. Next time you need to feed 10 or more, call and order a Rudy's group meal.
Next in line. Baylor Scott and White, Southwest Sports Medicine and Orthopedics. The team physicians for Baylor Athletics, diagnosing and treating all sports-related injuries, including concussions. These specialists also provide orthopedic services for athletes and non-athletes alike, whether it's knee or shoulder pain, hand or wrist injuries, orthopedic spine care, and even an arthritis and total joint clinic. Trust the doctors Baylor Athletics trusts. Baylor Scott and White, Southwest Sports Medicine and Orthopedics wants to get you back in the game.
It's plain and simple. Waco Custom Marketplace is the one-stop shop for what you need for tailgating, from charcoal, cold beer, and wine. And, of course, customize your order with brisket, tri-tip, sausage, wings, smoked pork tenderloin, country style or pork spare ribs, marinated beef and chicken fajita meat, ground beef and chili, meat, hot dogs and burgers, buns, seasoning, sauces, chips. There's fresh baked bread and kolaches every day, breakfast sausage links, and you can also customize your favorite cut of steaks from select, choice, or prime, bacon wrap fillets, ribeyes, New York strips, sirloin, T-bone, and porterhouse. Full service butcher shop includes pork, poultry, beef, chicken, and seafood, serving Waco restaurants and families since 1940. Your one-stop shop for beef, pork, poultry, and seafood needs. Waco Custom Marketplace, 425 Lake Air Drive, or WacoCustomMarketplace.com.
How did Edward Jones become one of the biggest financial service companies in the world? By not acting that way. Financial strategies, one-on-one advice, it's a big difference. And that's why Brad Wilson, your Edward Jones financial advisor, makes sense of investing. Experience the difference for yourself. Brad Wilson, 250 Sharon Drive in Woodway, 254-776-4337. Edward Jones, member SIPC.
You want to know why Stonewood Dental is so successful? Listen to what happy customers have to say.
Pleasant. It's different than any other dentist office. I really feel like they care. And it's not that you're here for 2 hours waiting on someone to take care of you. It's quick and easy, and I bring my kids, and my kids love being here too. They really love the treasure box. Staff is really nice and accommodating, real friendly. You feel more like home. It's not sterile looking. Everybody has their own personalized rooms with decorations and decor, and they'll even have a blanket for you when it's cold. I've recommended people to actually come here, and they are patients now. I really love it here. It feels like family.
Learn more, stonewood-dental.com.
Welcome back to Sikkim 365 Radio.
Throws it down the field. It's caught at the 10, and this game is over. The Cowboys win it. C.D. Lamb.
It's time for our weekly segment with David Hellman of DallasCowboys.com. The 5 o'clock hour is sponsored by Edward Jones Investments with financial advisor Ben Erlinson, who'll navigate you through today's financial climate. Edward Jones, making sense of investing.
Now here's David Smoak, Paul Catalina, and Craig Smoak.
Welcome back into Sick'em 365 Radio. David Hellman, DallasCowboys.com, joins us now. David, a lot to talk about coming off of a game that was ostensibly drunk at the end of it in that Patriots-Cowboys game. But I think the bigger issue we have to jump into is can we really be confident that Dak Prescott will be able to play after the bye, given Michael Gallup had the same or a very similar injury, and he's just now hopefully getting back to practice after the bye week?
Well, I'm not going to sit here and guarantee that Dak can play against Minnesota, but no two injuries are the same, no two players are the same, no two cap strains are the same. Everything I've heard is that it's a much more minor degree of strain. So I don't think Dak is going to miss 5 weeks like Michael Gallup has. But there's a degree of having to wait and see as well. I don't think even the Cowboys know for sure that he will be available against Minnesota. They're going to reevaluate him on Monday and have a clearer idea. So confident? No. Optimistic? Yes.
Well, let's get into that game. It was crazy pretty much from the outset, going for it on 4th down at your own, 34-yard line. And look, Mike McCarthy's going to do those things. People have to accept that. I think that my bigger question is, how do the Cowboys continue to overcome those things that go the wrong way? Are they just that good that it doesn't matter? They can pretty much gift the Patriots a touchdown early?
Well, maybe I'm the wrong guy. Like, I love that decision, to be honest with you. I do. I think the numbers say that it's a smart thing to do. Your offense gives you confidence that it can be a smart thing to do. Obviously, you don't want your defense to make it look so easy. I know starting on a 34-yard line is going to help the defense in any situation, or help the offense, I should say, in any situation. You'd still maybe like to see a little bit more resistance. So it's not so much the 4th down call that I take issue with, but yeah, that was sloppy all around football for 3 3/3 quarters. Even when they were tying and winning the game, it was sloppy with the holding calls and the personal fouls, 11 penalties, 2 end zone turnovers. They play a cleaner game, and I think it's feasible to think they win by multiple possessions there. So, I think talent level comes into play. I think this is a really talented team, and even if you take issue with some of the coaching decisions, I think the coaching helps them dig out of it as well. For Dan Quinn's defense to give up touchdowns on the first 2 possessions and then buckle down and only allow 50, 60 yards for the next couple of hours, I thought that was really impressive. Obviously, everything Kellen Moore's done speaks for itself, and hey, even for all the flack John Fossil's caught, he gets a big punt block, and they deliver a game-tying field goal as well. So I thought it was really, really impressive that they could have so much go wrong and still find a way to win the game.
Yeah, to John Fossil, I think he got probably blamed a little bit for Greg Zuerlein's early season woes, and I don't think that missed field goal is really that much on Greg Zuerlein, considering that I don't even think it was out of the corner of his eye. I think he could see him clearly, Bethel about to come and block that kick, so he was trying to loop around it however he could. But I'm kind of with you on the aggressiveness. I sometimes I think it's maybe not in that moment, but I don't know if you can turn that faucet off if you're just going to be aggressive and go, we'll tone it down now. So I'm kind of with you. It just makes me wonder.
And I think I try to be fair. Like I'll second guess decisions all day, but what kind of hypocrite would I be if I was constantly wanting people to be aggressive and go for things like that, and then turn around and be like, but that wasn't the right spot. Like, not right. Like, no, be aggressive. Play to win the game. Your offensive line's been bullying people. You've been averaging 200 rushing yards per game. Honestly, if Zeke is tackled a different way on that early 4th down, he probably gets it anyway. And they converted 2 or 3 other 4th downs in that game with great play calling. The NFL is really, really hard. Like, Josh Allen, Monday night, his quarterback sneak on 4th and inches with a 6'5" quarterback, is that a bad call just because he slipped and Jeffrey Simmons made a great play? I don't think so. The NFL's tough, and I applaud people that have the guts to put it on the line like that. So I hesitate to criticize people too much for being bold.
One thing I think popped up a little bit in the negative sense for the defense was this team's still not great at teams that can run right at you, and the Patriots had a lot of success with that, especially early on before the Cowboys defense clamped down. But is part of their success as a run defense the fact that the Cowboys offense is so prolific and explosive that teams just kind of have to leave it on the sideline because they're going to be playing from behind a lot of the time?
Yes, absolutely. I mean, this was probably only the second game they've played. Oh, the Charger game as well. They played 6 games, and only 3 of them were really balanced games. You know, where the outcome was in doubt in the fourth quarter. So yeah, I mean, context is everything. Are they the the 5th best run defense because they just buckle down and won't let you run? No, it's because they've had a lot of second half leads. I don't think they're terrible by any stretch. I mean, people have asked that, talking about the Patriots gashing them. I get that they had success. I didn't think that they were awful by any stretch of the imagination. But I certainly think that the games that they've played play a factor in that. And it'll be interesting to see how they hold up as they play some more evenly matched opponents, which I'm guessing is going to happen when they get back from the bye.
Well, yeah, they've got Minnesota coming up. That's a team that's playing pretty well right now, and they've got Dalvin Cook, who, that's what they're going to try to do, is run right at the Cowboys with Dalvin Cook. So it'll be an interesting matchup to see if they improve anything from before the bye to the Vikings. But the bigger thing with the Vikings is they might be getting Michael Gallup back, and injury news looks like and they get Lyle Collins back. He wasn't injured. He was just kind of dumb for what he did. But other than that, things are looking pretty rosy for the Cowboys after the bye.
Yeah, you're almost waiting for some kind of shoe to drop because the prognosis on Dak is favorable. It sounds like Gallup is going to start practicing next week. I don't know if that means he'll be available for Minnesota. Lyle Collins will be available for Minnesota. Dorrance Armstrong should be coming back soon. I don't know. We need to find out what the deal is with Tristan Hill, if he's ready to come back. He can come off of PUP now that it's been 6 weeks. I don't know if he's ready. And then Neville Gallimore, Kelvin Joseph. Kelvin Joseph should maybe be available against Minnesota. And Neville Gallimore maybe in a couple weeks after that. So, yeah, I mean, like I said, you kind of started looking around for some bad news because it sounds like it's not all going to happen at once, but over these next 2 or 3 games, it sounds like they could get a handful of pretty important players back.
All right, David, we got to get into it. We would. We talked about it last week. It is... but you look around college football, it's not too uncommon anymore for a guy to win a national championship and then all of a sudden you turn around and he's not there. It's not 1989 anymore where you can win a national championship and lock yourself in for a decade. That's just not how it's going to work anymore. Things change. Guys make a lot of money. Expectations get high. Ed Orgeron's out the door. Your thoughts on him being out the door so quickly and your hopes for what the next coach is. Maybe not who it is, but what you want to see from them.
Yeah, I mean, it's funny, and I don't expect people to pay close attention to LSU football if you're not invested in them. That's, nobody does that. But it's not as surprising as I think a lot of people want to make it out to be. You see a lot of dialogue about you win 50 games and a national title and this is how they treat you. But if you've followed the program closely over the last 2 years, I mean, this writing has been on the wall. It's not just that they're losing. It's not just that they're playing poorly. It's really just been a series of misstep after misstep from the time he won that title. The hires to replace guys like Dave Aranda and Joe Brady were bad. The accountability for those hires being bad was bad. There's been a rash of off-the-field issues, from Title IX investigations to sexual assault allegations. It just became a laundry list. And when you throw all of that on top of the fact that the team's not playing well, it's just not that surprising. You're never happy about somebody getting fired, but I think anybody that pays attention to LSU football was ready for this probably since the end of last season. As far as what I mean, for the future, I mean, you want to win games. I would love for LSU to stay out of the non-football headlines, unlike they have been for the last year or two. Hopefully close that chapter and get somebody who can have more accountability and a firmer hand when it comes to that type of stuff. And then when you focus more on the football side of things, look, LSU is always going to be prided on defense. That's important to me, but I had a lot of fun watching that offense a couple years ago. So I lean toward whoever's in charge, whether they call the plays or hire somebody who knows what they're doing. I'm not ready to go back to the Stone Age of LSU football. I want to keep, find me another Joe Burrow if you can. Easier said than done.
What was kind of amazing, if you look at Joe Burrow coming and making that LSU team what they were, is both Les Miles and Orgeron could recruit 21 out of 22 positions. Heck, I'm not even including kickers and punters, which they did a pretty darn good job of that as well. But for the life of both of those guys, finding a quarterback was beyond the realm of human understanding until Joe Burrow transferred in. You would have traded almost any team in the country, save maybe Alabama, would have traded rosters 100% with LSU, except for the quarterback most years.
You're 100% right, I get Joe Burrow's special. There just aren't a lot of guys that are going to throw 60 touchdowns and 6 picks. And Max Johnson hasn't been bad by any. I mean, he hasn't been terrible. He certainly hasn't been great. But it's a far cry from the old passing stat lines of the Les Miles days, where you're throwing for 110 yards a game. But yeah, I mean, this sport is what it is, and that it goes back to me not being critical of going for it on 4th down. I mean, every rule in this game favors a good offense and a good quarterback. You just have to have it to be successful these days. So Burrow is a high bar, but at the very least, I'm just looking for above-the-bar quarterback play. I mean, you've seen Alabama crank these guys out year after year. Ohio State's done an amazing job of it. I mean, they're so good at it that they ran Joe Burrow out of town. So I know it's possible, and then that's what I'm talking about. I want the defense to be good, but I just don't think you're going where you want to go as a program if you're not getting that type of quarterback play.
It's David Hellman, DallasCowboys.com, fresh off a trip to New England, and what I would assume from the hotel to the stadium was kind of a de facto fall foliage tour this time of year.
Oh, man, it's why. So it's fun. I wasn't in Boston. I was in Providence, which I don't know anything about New England, but it makes sense. They're all small states. All of New England is smaller than like the DFW area. Like, we're so used to space in Texas, but. So anyway, it's just funny. It's like a 30-minute drive from Providence to Gillette Stadium, and like Foxborough is this tiny like postcard New England town. So you're like driving down these small roads with autumn foliage and like little colonial cottages and stone fences, and then all of a sudden you're at a football stadium. It's a trip compared to what we're used to here in Texas, for sure.
That's David Hellman, DallasCowboys.com, here on Sikkim 365 Radio.
All right, Don's Humidor and Coffee Beans, located in the Town West Shopping Center off Valley Mills in Waco. Right now, they've got Vita Dreamy, a THC-free product. What it does is you are getting closer and closer to maybe going to bed. Take one of the gummies. You can nibble on one or eat the whole thing. It comes in different milligrams, but it allows you to somehow, when you do fall asleep, or when you want to fall asleep, you do. And you save yourself. Think about all the times you've tossed and turned at night. Maybe 30 minutes or 45 minutes, or who knows, maybe 2 or 3 hours. You look up, it's 1:30 in the morning, and you got to get up at 5, 6, or 7. Vita Dreamy can help you with that. They have Delta THC products as well. The new cigars include Alec Bradley, the Gatekeeper No. 7, the Punch Knuckle Buster, and also Leather Rose Petite Corona, along with the great brands of cigars inside their 48-foot walk-in humidor. Tell Carol, Ashley, and Cheyenne Smokey sent you in the Town West Shopping Center off Valley Mills in Waco.
At Allen Samuels in Waco, we're celebrating Ram Power Days, bringing the first truck brand to take the top spot overall in new vehicle initial quality by J.D. Power. With the 2021 Ram 1500 Quad Cab Lone Star, you can get total values up to $6,000 or 2.9% for 72 months, plus $2,000 in bonus cash. All first responders get an extra $500. Come see why Ram wins great awards year after year. Allen Samuels in Waco.
Come by. Let's be friends.
Stepping into a new pair of boots is great, but stepping into the boots of a U.S. Army officer can also add confidence and leadership skills to your son or daughter's career path. There are more than 150 occupational specialties to help them find the best fit for their future. See all the things your son or daughter can achieve in our boots at GoArmy.com. U.S. Army Waco Recruiting Company, 254-598-8131 or 254-776-1543.
Born in Waco, Brotherwell Brewing exists to serve the Central Texas community with locally crafted beer of the highest quality. They want to bring Central Texas closer to the brewing experience so everyone can enjoy well-made beer as much as they do. For 2.5 years, they've been bringing high-quality beer to Central Texas at their location on Bridge Street in East Waco. Brotherwell Brewing believes in community and bringing people together to enjoy products made in their community. So for your game day, whether it's a tailgate or at home, stop by Brotherwell Brewing for high-quality craft beer made right here in Central Texas, 400 East Bridge Street, and check them out online at brotherwell.com.
With so many companies and policies out there, it gets so confusing shopping for insurance, and I never know if I'm getting the policy that's right for me. Luckily, I met the team at the Niche Group Insurance Agency. With the Niche Group, you can go to one company and get access to coverage options from many insurance carriers, and you get to speak to a real person about your specific coverage needs. With the Niche Group, I know I'm getting the right coverage at the right price. If you need insurance, talk to the experts at the Niche Group at 1-800-258-8302.
Baylor University is where lights shine bright. So, let there be light. Let there be roommates and teammates, scholarship and championships. Let there be fresh starts and new traditions, fast friendships and lasting impacts. Let there be laughter. Let there be joy. Let there be light. Baylor University, where lights shine bright.
At Ideal MRI, we feel blessed to be part of the Waco community. We're a small family business here in Central Texas. At times like this, the cost of healthcare has never been more important. And unfortunately, significant illnesses and injuries still occur. And that's why Ideal MRI is open and here to serve you through this difficult time. So if you need an MRI, ask your doctor about Ideal MRI. You can schedule online in minutes at idealmri.com or call 833-IDEAL-MRI.
There are 26 letters in the alphabet, over 600,000 words in the dictionary, and just 3 of them said together can change everything. Let's order pizza. Those 3 words lead to dough made from scratch and 3 fresh signature cheeses that blanket golden crust in a heavenly melt on Marco's Pizza that'll blow your mind. So visit marcos.com to order and stop by Marco's Pizza in Belmead, China Spring, Woodway, and soon to open in Robinson. Marco's. Pizza lovers get it.
Welcome back to Sikkim 365 Radio.
The Sikkim 365 Radio app is sponsored by Allen Samuels Dodge Chrysler Jeep Ram Fiat in Waco. Your friend in the car business at Loop 340 and east of 84. Come by. Let's be friends.
Here we go. 365 Sports, Sikkim 365 Radio, John McClain, Houston Chronicle. John, that Cowboys game, and obviously they have teased people before, but they have everything, it seems like, on offense. My question for you is, for them to go in there and throw up on themselves, have a lot of penalties go against them, fumble the ball, not make it at the 4th and 1, how good are they and resilient is this specific team?
Well, first of all, they're lucky that the Patriots are not very good. The week before, a rookie quarterback here, Davis Mills, had the best game of any rookie quarterback in Bill Belichick's 20 years against the Patriots, and the Patriots won 25-22. So it stood to reason that Dak Prescott, with all his great offensive talent, that they would put on a show. And the Patriots played about as well as they could play. Mac Jones played as well as he could play. And the Cowboys were able to escape with that victory. And they're running away with the NFC East just like everybody thought they would. The key now, stay healthy, mainly keep Dak Prescott healthy. And it's scary when you see a guy walking off in a boot, but they've got the bye week for him to rest. And the defense, of course, it didn't acquit itself that well against a rookie quarterback. They should have played better overall, but it's still a better defense. And what I like about the Cowboys, they have balance. They've improved under Dan Quinn, and they have balance on offense. And it looks like people are going to praise Kellen Moore into a head coaching job. And Dan Quinn, he's not going to be going anywhere for a while, although he'd like another shot at being a head coach again. But I think people better enjoy Kellen Moore for one more season because he's gone.
Do you think that the Cowboys would run into a problem replacing him, given that this is kind of his offense? I mean, it's not anything Jason Garrett did, and I don't know how much of it is Mike McCarthy's. It's very much Kellen Moore kind of doing whatever he wants.
It's very interesting. When Mike McCarthy took the job, he wanted to call the plays. He'd call the plays in Green Bay. He'd call the plays at San Francisco as an offensive coordinator. And then all of a sudden he announced Kellen Moore is going to call plays. Now, who do you think told him that? Well, Jerry Jones. So he let Moore do it, and we didn't get a good indication of how good Moore is. It's amazing, isn't it, how much better a coach looks when Dak Prescott's playing over Andy Dalton. And so if Prescott stays healthy enough and keeps playing, he'll help him get a head coaching job, whether there's somebody they like on the staff, whether McCarthy would take it over next season, which I'm guessing he would, and that'll allow him to finally get his hands on that responsibility.
John, Whitney Merciless moving on. It looked like it was a mutual agreement based on what I was reading earlier between he and the Texans franchise. Your thoughts on Whitney Merciless, who's been there for going on 9 seasons now in Houston?
Yeah, he was drafted between J.J. Watt and DeAndre Hopkins. Class act, did a lot of things off the field in the community. In fact, today he made an appearance for his foundation at an elementary school. The media went to interview him, and he was classy as always. His snaps and his production had gone down. They were playing other players, so he said, hey, if I'm not going to play, let me go. They said okay, and he's got to be doing cartwheels out of Houston to get away from one of the worst teams in the league and a chance to go to a playoff team.
I want to get back to the Cowboys for a second and Dak Prescott, what he's doing. Obviously, he has this calf thing that's got people a little bit up in arms. But I saw this stat they send out, as you know, John, you get it. You probably know it before they write it. In 39 games, he's got 39 games of 100 or higher passer rating. He's only behind Aaron Rodgers, and this is his 39th game. Aaron Rodgers had 43 and Romo had 41 in their by their 75th start. This is insane what he's doing. He has weapons. He's got a great running game, but how impressed are you on how he has played already this year?
Well, I was surprised that he came back and played as well as he did early going to that first game that they could have won against the Buccaneers. After watching all the Hard Knocks, I thought, well, he's going to take him a little while to get back to where he was before he blew out his ankle, and if he didn't skip a beat, now if he wants to be a great quarterback, and you got to win playoff games. They won one, what was it, 2 years ago when he beat Seattle after they won the division and lost at the Rams. They got to win in the playoffs. You know, you guys know how Jerry Jones, I think he'd probably give up his yacht, his helicopter, maybe one of his jets to be able to win another Super Bowl, to get out from under the Jimmy Johnson stigma that he won 2 with Jimmy and then he hired Barry Switzer and he won with Jimmy's players. And I hope that Jerry Jones does that because I know how much he means to him. If he's going to do it, he's going to have to do it with Prescott. I'm just looking back, they made bad decisions not to pay him sooner than they did when they waited. It's not too late because they got him under contract finally, but he's playing great. They put good players around him, good offensive line. Lyle Collins is back. if they can keep those guys healthy and not being suspended, then he's going to have a lot of protection. He's got 2 running backs and just loaded with receivers. And last year was a good example in the draft when you take not what you need, but the best player available. And that, of course, being CeeDee Lamb has been tremendous.
John, what did you think of the decision last night by the Bills to go for it?
It's so funny, Paul. There's all kinds of stories this week about how many more times coaches are going for it now. They understand analytics. The general manager and the owners, if they don't understand it, they have people telling them it was the right decision. It happens a lot. I don't have a problem with a coach. If you got Josh Allen and you got an offense that's loaded, now I would not have done a sneak. I would have put him back, given him an opportunity to hand off the back, run it himself, or throw it. 3 options instead of a sneak. And they tried to do a quick snap and be cute. And Jeffrey Simmons, one of the most underrated interior linemen in the NFL, led the charge to stop it. And then Mike Vrabel was able to go empty his pants after that. And I just thought that I don't have a problem with Sean McDermott doing it because they're still going to be a great team. And I don't think today when a coach, if you do it on your side of the field, somebody told me somebody did it in his 20-something and gave up a touchdown. Now, that's ridiculous. If you've got a great offense or a great defense, okay, do it when you get in your territory close to midfield and risk a touchdown or a field goal. But once you get on the other side of midfield, I don't blame coaches for doing it. The Texans have done it now 5 times in the last 2 games, and they've succeeded on 4 with a rookie quarterback, Davis Mills, converting each time.
So what is the concern factor in the city of Houston with the Red Sox pounding the Astros pitching staff?
Oh, you can imagine. It's the worst playoff pitching performance I've ever seen. And they can't say it's because of Lance McCullers. They won the game that McCullers would have started the first one. And now they just collapsed. I mean, Framber Valdez stunk it up. Luis Garcia stunk it up. Jose Urquidy stunk it up. Now they're going to give Zach Greinke a chance to stink it up. I just like to see one of them get through 3 innings. And I like to see the hitters start hitting some more because this is embarrassing. What they got to do is win one of these games so it can come back to Houston. But I don't think it's going to happen because their pitching has been awful. And it's amazing because during the season, their ERA was number 2 in the American League.
But, John, this is coming from a Red Sox fan. Believe me, I live in a constant state of panic. But they're not the Astros that
Braves
beat up on the Red
Sox
to
take the lead on the Rockies.
Yeah, beat up on the Red Sox all year long because the pitching is just, no McCullers, and Greinke's a shell of what he was because he pitched, twice in September?
Yeah, and he was terrible. He just doesn't have anything left. He'll be gone, just like Verlander made $35 million this year to rehab. I think he'll be back in Detroit. And I'm just enjoying Carlos Correa while I can because I fully expect him to be gone as well. And I don't know what they're going to do about their pitching. Trades they made brought in pitchers on 1-year contracts. So they're going to have to rebuild their pitching staff. And they don't have a lot of talent in the minors. And they haven't been able to have their first 2 picks the last 2 years because of the penalties for cheating. But, this era has been fun while it lasted. But I hate to see them go down in flames.
I got a chat room question or a comment from Chris. I still feel like something with the Deshaun Watson not playing and no trade in the horizon feels strange. They're paying a quarterback all of that money not to play and no urgency to trade him. Are they just stuck?
What do you mean there's no urgency to trade him? They've been trying to trade him since March. Nobody wants him because he's got the 22 civil suits. They want those suits to be resolved, and he hasn't done it. That's beyond the Texans' control.
Yeah,
he won't play here. They don't want him to play here. He's caused this franchise all kind of problems with his trade demand. Now with all this, where they can't trade him. Eventually they'll trade him, and they want 3 1s and 2 2s. And the best time to do it would be close to the draft because there's going to be teams that could need quarterbacks. Carolina and Denver, Miami were wanting him before. Now Tua Tagovailoa threw for 329 yards. 2 touchdowns. Wasn't his fault they lost to the Jaguars. But the Eagles, the Giants may give up on Daniel Jones, 2 number 1s. They're talking about benching Jared Goff in Detroit. They got 2 number ones. You know, they want 3 1s and 2 2s. Doesn't have to be all the same season. When somebody offers it, they'll trade it.
All right, so you're go ahead, Craig. I'm sorry.
Oh, I was just going to ask to follow up with. I guess you're probably going to ask yourself. 6-1, John.
Yeah,
the Baylor Bears coming off of a nice win last weekend over future Big 12 conference mate BYU. They are bowl eligible. They got the break this week, and then a pretty tough, stretch, home stretch as they close out the season. But what do you think of what you're seeing right now at 6-1 with Dave Aranda and the Baylor Bears?
It's been unbelievable. You know, what they've done with Bohannon has been fantastic. You know, you move a defensive guy to offense, and he turns out to be one of the best running backs in the conference. And they're so much fun to watch. They're so much better in the offensive line than they were last year. And one of the things I like when I'm watching replays is all the blocking downfield. Their receivers are blocking like maniacs. That's good coaching. Aranda realized after the first year, most first-time head coaches, their first staff's their worst because they hire their friends. And then the ones that realize it and make changes and not afraid to make changes and say, I was wrong, they have the best chance for success. And we're seeing this. And I'll tell you what, it won't surprise me in a couple of years, Jeff Grimes is not a head coach based on what he's doing right now.
John, thank you, sir. Appreciate your time.
Pick 'em, guys. Thank you very much.
John McClain, Hall of Fame writer, Houston Chronicle, Tuesdays at around 5:30. Speaking of Abram Smith, he switched from linebacker to running back. He started out as a running back out of Abilene High, and he was a record-setting running back there. He today was named the Earl Campbell Tyler Rose Award National Player of the Week, this being the 7th week that they've done it. 188 yards, 3 touchdowns. The most by a Baylor player since Shock Linwood had 237 against Iowa State in October 5 years ago.
Yeah, and that's a wide open race this year. I feel like that Earl Campbell Award because, I was kind of waiting on a Garrett Wilson at Ohio State or, just some there's usually some favorites, but there's not really this year, quite frankly. I mean, I guess Bijan would probably be the overwhelming favorite just because of what he's done at Texas. But you look at an Abram Smith, you look at if you play at a school in Texas, that counts. So. They're all up for consideration, but yeah, it's pretty wide open.
My pick at the start of the year would have probably been, had they been as good as we thought in advertising, the quarterback play had been better, would have been Spiller at A&M. But that's he's had a good run. Don't get me wrong, 8-chain as well, but it seems to be wide open. We did touch on this. Go ahead.
I was going to say I think it might be like an all running back group because I think Sincere McCormick, Abram Smith, Bijan Robinson, Isaiah Spiller, very well could be all running backs in that final group.
Kennedy Brooks.
He's from Texas.
From Mansfield. We did say something about the AAC. They're going to have that 6-team edition with Florida Atlantic, UNC Charlotte, North Texas, UT San Antonio, Rice, and UAB. Some of you have asked if we've touched on that, and we did at the start of the show. Good for them.
Yeah.
Whether that's the best 6 they could get, apparently, obviously, it's not because we know about the schools that said no. But I'm glad. I'm happy for them. We didn't want to see the Big 12 full for a lot of reasons. We don't want to see that done, and we didn't want to see the AAC picked apart so much that they had no longer a conference. And Mike Oresco had to do kind of a Bob Bowlesby, maybe not quite as much of a blindside, but he thought they were going to be the ones that grew. Then he lost 3 teams and might lose more. He did. He found a way. He found a way to keep that thing floated for right now. And good luck to them going forward as well.
Yeah, and I said this earlier, and I didn't mean it as any kind of a knock. I mean, it's definitely watered down compared to its previous version, but then again, so is the Big 12 compared to its previous version. So I don't really mean that as like any type of an indictment, but, I mean, given the circumstances and what you had available, I think they did the best job that they could do. I think, again, UTSA – it's not a program a lot of people pay attention to, but the longer Jeff Traylor is there, they will. And I think with that city, you have a real opportunity to carve out a nice niche for yourself in this new conference. It's definitely not having Houston and Cincinnati and some of those schools, but there is some potential with a couple of them. So, yeah, I mean, well done to the American. I wasn't hoping for them, to flame out and have to fold into, another I wasn't rooting for that, even though I know and I remember very well a lot of American fans having a lot of fun with the Big 12. I won't go that route, but good luck to them.
All right, Armstrong, before we go to Paul's a break and then his top 5. This is a video from Friday night's game between Methodist Children's Home in Waco and Mineral Wells Community Christian School. Methodist Children's Home won this game 72-26. Watch what happens. Pass thrown across the field.
By the way,
intercepted.
this is six-man football.
Six-man football. Intercepted by Methodist Children's Home, Corleone Coleman. What a great name.
Yeah.
All right, if we could play it one more. Now watch the coach. They're trying to come on back. Don't drop the ball. Don't give yourself up. So he starts to run back toward. Now the official, watch him. Okay, he's waving his arms. The official said that because he gave himself up in the end zone, here it is again. Watch the pick. He just gets mixed up. Throws, interception. He just got confused.
He thought he was on offense.
Yeah, and next thing you know, I remember there's a professional player, Jim Marshall of the Vikings, did that, ran the wrong direction. It's a historical thing. So they said there was an inadvertent whistle. They did not call it a safety, which it could have been. He never did actually stop. And who knows, he's good enough to probably run through everybody again.
Well, everyone was stopped, so he could have probably, yeah.
And they said it was an inadvertent whistle. They replayed the down. So instead of giving a touchdown to what would have been Community Christian, they were winning 12-3 at the time as well.
Well, he must have thought he was playing offense because that deep in the field, how would you not know if you were playing defense? You do not realize, like, hey, I'm running like 85 yards here, and we had them backed up to like they're 15. So how did that not connect in your brain when you're just running and running and running to go get that pick six or whatever you thought? But, yeah, it happens. It's happened before. It'll happen again.
All right, so that's Corleone Coleman. One final NFL note. There have been 22 games with a game-winning score in the final minute of regulation this year or in overtime, the most such games in the first 6 weeks of NFL history, or since they started overtime as well.
I'm looking at that future Monday Night Football schedule. It is not that appealing. I got to be honest with you. It's like the Giants twice in the next month, and it's just –
I think they have this thing now where they have to give everybody Thursday and Mondays.
I guess. Yeah.
Coming up next, Paul Catalina's Top 5, Sikkim 365 Radio.
It's time for some high school football. Berg Colgan Ford proudly celebrates the Panthers, Cadets, Lions, and all the Central Texas football teams as they march their way through the season and down the field. Hi, I'm Mark Stewart with Berg Colgan Ford. We'd love to show you our Broncos, Raptors, and Mustangs. These vehicles are winners with their sporty options and designs. Nominate who you think deserves the Built Ford Tough Player of the Week at FordPlayerOfTheWeek.com. Visit us anytime at BKFord.com, making buying your next Ford simple at BK Ford.
Grant Dideker, under the umbrella of Texas Farm Bureau Insurance, McLennan County agent. When you contact people about insurance, and people are hit up with it all the time, what do you tell them? What do you say? I know you say you educate, but Texas Farm Bureau Insurance is obviously successful for a lot of different reasons.
Right.
And has hundreds of thousands.
It's personal service.
Okay.
It's one-on-one service. Just yesterday, went to a client's house, met with a couple, went over all the coverages, and they said, wow, we've, never had this before. We've had this different insurance and that different insurance, but we've never had somebody actually come to the house and go over everything with us. And wow, we really appreciate that, especially this day and time where it's just a click of a button and you really don't know who you're dealing with. It's a different person you call every time you call that 800 number. You don't know who your agent is. Now they have a face with the name, and it's more personal service.
Grant Dideker, Texas Farm Bureau Insurance, McLennan County agent. If someone wants to contact you, just straight on your cell phone?
Yep, 254-265-0442.
Grant Dideker, Texas Farm Bureau Insurance, a McLennan County agent.
It takes time to reach goals. It's a truth that applies to more than sports. It goes for your financial goals as well. You work hard for your money, and you deserve an investment strategy that lines up with your game plan. And Tom Albers, your Edward Jones financial advisor, can help. If your financial investments aren't putting forth the effort you desire, stop by today for a financial review. Tom Albers, 4301 Lakeshore Drive, 254-776-7605. Edward Jones, member SIPC.
Hey, this is Bryce Petty, former starting quarterback and two-time Big 12 champion, and I know firsthand the importance of being in top shape both on and off the field. So listen up, men. If you're feeling beat down day in and day out and looking for that high-performance edge that separates the men from the boys, then look no further than the Petty Clinic Low T in Waco. Petty Clinic is a comprehensive men's healthcare clinic with an atmosphere catering to men. Board-certified Dr. Kent Petty has a special interest in offering the highest quality medical care to men of all ages. Some of the services offered include include screening and treatment for low testosterone or thyroid, infertility, high blood pressure, diabetes, high cholesterol, sleep apnea, while offering comprehensive wellness exams and complete men's health lab panels. High performance men, remember, it's not just a Petty thing. This is Bryce Petty, encouraging you to reach out and Google search Petty Clinic Low T or go to pettycliniclowt.com and get your complimentary lab screening today.
Riverbend Liquor and Wine, Lakeshore Drive at North 19th Street in Waco is a hidden gem. They've got a great selection of spirits, wine, and the most extensive selection of craft beer in Waco in their gorgeous walk-in fridge. And they have an amazing array of high-end bourbons like Pinhook, Weller, Buffalo Trace, Brush Creek, Hotel, Garrison Brothers, Thomas S. Moore, Hooten Young, and Bardstown. Great customer service and a convenient and speedy drive-through window. Riverbend Liquor and Wine. Find out more on Facebook and Instagram.
Let Camille Johnson Realtors guide you seamlessly through the process of buying your dream home or selling your current one. Commercial, farm and ranch, or residential, Camille Johnson Realtors can smoothly and successfully lead you through any transaction. With a team of 28 experienced agents who are excited about serving you, Camille Johnson Realtors services the entire greater Waco area. If you're in the market to buy or sell, contact Camille Johnson Realtors, 104 Midway Center in Woodway, or find them online at www.camillejohnson.com. Camille Johnson Realtors, elegant, charming, warm. Welcome home.
Welcome back to Sikkim 365 Radio. This is Paul Catalina's Top 5 at 5:55, presented by Champion Salon and Barber. To book your appointment, go to championsalonandbarber.com.
Going to Champions on Saturday. We're looking forward to it. Just enjoy my trips there.
You better take a Sharpie now that you told everybody you're going to be there.
When I if that happens, I'll send you guys a picture. One really loyal person.
Hey, one thing I know we did not mention was DeMonte KZ from the Cowboys, charged with DWI. Was arrested, charged with DWI. I mean, that's not going to cancel his season, but at least a noteworthy of passing along.
Yeah. All right, top 5 Nick Rolovich replacements since he has been let go at Washington State. Number 5. Look, if you're going to run a spread offense and you maybe want somebody who Washington State's not, necessarily a place that goes and grabs, although they go Mike Leach, but Kendall Briles from Arkansas runs the same kind of run and shoot wide open offense that Washington State's run under Leach and now Nick Rolovich. So why not? I think this is a nice little jump for him if he's ready to be head coach.
Yeah, it's not really his area of the country. That would be new territory for him. He's stayed down south the entire time. I mean, Florida Atlantic, Arkansas, obviously,
FSU for a year.
Yeah, FSU, Baylor. So that would be some new uncharted territory for him. I mean, I think Kendall is bound to be a head coach at some point, but I really don't know where he's viewed in the industry as far as like his readiness level for it, and I don't know if like that last name scares people off. It shouldn't. Kendall's his own man. But yeah, I mean, I assume he's going to be a head coach one day. I just don't know what kind of like the energy level is for that amongst those in the industry.
Yeah. So I think it'd be a good one. Number 4, Blake Anderson. Another Central Texas connection here, and Blake Anderson, head coach at
Hubbard,
Utah
Texas.
State.
Yep.
He's had success where he's gone, and look, this would be a Power 5 job for him. I think he'd do fine at Utah, he's doing fine at Utah State. He'll do fine at Washington State, and he's fine with going places where it's kind of in the middle of nowhere. So why not? And Washington State is very much in the middle of nowhere school.
Yeah, it is. Sure. Yeah, I mean, why not? Yeah, sure, Blake Anderson could work.
Yeah. Number 3, Brent Brennan from San Jose State. This guy's going to get a Power 5 job soon. He has coached them up at San Jose State very well. Their offenses are pretty good. He's done well with transfer quarterbacks. He's probably ready for the next step, and this, to me, would make a lot of sense for him to go to Washington State.
Yeah, I mean, he's out there on the West Coast already. He knows how to build up a program. I don't know. I don't want to pretend to know the inner workings of Washington State football and where exactly they are in terms of depth and things of that nature. But, yeah, I mean, Brett Brennan is a guy who knows how to build something up. So if that's what they're, in fact, looking for as a builder, then, yeah, I think he would be a a promising candidate for that. And I know that Arizona had a lot of interest in him last year as well. So, yeah, obviously people are taking note.
3-4 this year, though, so they're struggling a little bit.
Not going to help at
last
all.
year.
That won't help at all.
Yeah.
Number 2, Jay Norvell from Nevada. This is, he's been at Arizona State as a coordinator. He's been the head coach at Nevada, and they've had a good run of success. He's recruited quarterbacks well, like Carson Strong. He's got there now. So I think this one, the offense is a little bit different in Nevada than it is at Washington State, but who cares? I mean, if he's going to be a guy who's going to stay with your program and help them grow and be consistent, I think that's what Washington State probably wants more than anything, is somebody who's just going to stay for a bit.
Yeah, I got to say, man, I mean, these are, potential candidates. There's not really a sexy hire for them to make outside of, I guess Alex Grinch would be a splash hire or someone along.
Thanks, Craig.
Thanks
a whole lot.
You just let them know that I spoiled it. But, I mean, point being that I unlike the LSU job, for example, where you're like, hey, let's throw this guy's name. Lane Kiffin switching 2 states, or would that be 1 or 2 states over? One state over. The Washington State job doesn't have quite that appeal. I always liked Jay Norvell. I watched him a long time, as an assistant at Oklahoma. And I've always thought he handled himself really well. He's doing a great job at Nevada. So, if they feel like he's ready to make that bigger leap, then okay.
He beat California, of course. A lot of people have, but he did beat them in the Pac-12 to open up the year. They're 5-1 right now. So
only losses to K-State, right?
Yeah.
All right, number 1, Alex Grinch. Has had a history there.
I mentioned that in that story today. That makes sense.
Alex Grinch would make a lot of sense. Young guy. Now he's a defensive coach, not an offensive coach, but that doesn't preclude him from being a good head coach, and maybe he's ready to make the jump. Maybe the move to Oklahoma was the thing he had to do to show people that, look, I can install this defense anywhere, and he's been successful at Oklahoma that didn't have a good defense for a long time, and I know it's not, the best defense they've ever had, but now they are not as worried about losing games because they can't stop people in a revolving door as they were when Mike Stoops were there. Even Brent Venables. Brent Venables had problems on defense before he rediscovered himself at Clemson.
That's why he got basically forced out at Oklahoma. Was his defenses were pretty good, but they weren't great, and they needed great because that was the missing piece. And Alex Grinch has done a hell of a job at Oklahoma. I mean, he really has. He's kind of back in the position, though, where they're the weakness once again, whereas the last few weeks it's been the offense up until Dallas, and now it's kind of the microscope is back on the defensive side of things for Oklahoma. But, the connection is there. As you mentioned, he knows what it's like at Washington State or in Pullman already, and so, it seems like a guy who's one of those top assistants that's probably on the rise, and I would imagine he would get a phone call at the very least.
So he was there before he went to Ohio State for the 1 year before he went to Oklahoma. UT's defensive coordinator. Kwiatkowski, he was at Washington State at one point before he actually went. He was at Boise, too, before he went to the University of Washington. So there's some pretty good defensive coordinators, although UT would like to see their defense get a lot better. Remember that time we just said, I don't remember who the AD,
just thinking about that.
UT defensive coordinator
thinking
was.
About how we
everybody
got shamed
lost
for not knowing about the great Pete Kwiatkowski.
Kwiatkowski. And here's the thing.
Whatever.
I don't know his name. I probably remembered it. I just won't have to say it because I butchered it twice.
You said you didn't really know about what his scheme was.
Yeah,
that was the thing.
Know,
people don't want to listen, but that's fine, and it doesn't matter anymore because the person who laughs hardest.
His resume, of course, was he coached the 1970 Steelers defense, and then the Doomsday defense for the Cowboys, and the Purple People Eaters. He did all those.
You know what? There were a lot, and again, Baylor and Texas have a game, not this weekend, but next weekend. But there were a lot of people the last couple of weeks, Texas fans on the chat room, that have gotten quiet in the last 2 weeks, and that doesn't mean they can't bounce back. And hell, they could win in Waco. Who knows? But we have not heard from them. I think Marcus has been there. He's been right there with us, so good for Marcus for showing up. And Tim Vermeer for showing up a day late on this week's show.
Well, hey, if you were a Texas fan, what would you be saying right now? Like, hey, you suck. Well, hey, so do you. So, I mean, what are you going to say,
One of the things is they couldn't wait for Oklahoma and Texas to run the next 3 Big 12 championship games, and that's that's not paying attention to what UT's done.
Well, and it's also not emblematic of what most people actually think.
I agree.
Yeah.
For all of you in the chat room and a ton of you, the text line, and also Armstrong Sims behind the scenes, for Paul Catalina, for Craig Smoak. Thanks to our amazing sponsors from day one, April 6th of 2020, and all the ones who have joined us since then. I'm David Smoak. Thank you for watching and listening. Sikkim 365 Radio, 365 Sports. Go back and listen to that Mack Rhoades segment from today. We talked quite a bit about Dave Aranda. Good night.
Ideal MRI is a small family business right here in Central Texas. We're open to support you while lowering the cost of healthcare bills. When you need an MRI, ask your doctor for an Ideal MRI. Visit us at idealmri.com or call us at 833-IDEAL-MRI.
Stepping into the boots of a U.S. Army officer can add confidence and leadership skills to your son or daughter's career path. See all the things they can achieve in our boots at GoArmy.com. U.S. Army Waco Recruiting Company, 254-598-8131 or 254-776-1543.
After my first car accident, I feared the biggest damage would be to my wallet. I expected a mountain of bills and a long, drawn-out process. But my Texas Farm Bureau insurance agent was there when I needed her and helped me get back on my feet and in my car in no time. Instead of a hassle, I got